the I'm a Fan Of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Emily Grefer.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome back.
I know, it's been too long.
You were one of the people I was going to have in here very soon when we got the new space.
I know.
And we just kept,
My schedule, that's on me.
Well, you and Shri.
Oh, yeah.
The two of y'all, it was like either you would cancel or I would cancel, or you would cancel or I would cancel. And I was like, God, how does it take, 6 months to get somebody on the show? But anyway, welcome.
Thank
it's so
you.
good to see you again. I think the last time I saw you was at DCC.
Probably, yeah, the open mic.
I realized I hadn't seen you at an open mic in a long time.
It's been a long time.
And it was fun watching you on an open mic.
Oh my gosh.
Trying out some of the new stuff you're trying.
Yeah.
We won't talk about it because I don't want you to get into it. But
yeah, sure.
I like it. You're going, because
God.
I always thought you went kind of hard in the paint to begin with.
Yeah.
Like you have no problem making people, moving that chair a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
And the newer stuff goes even more that way. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to challenge people's ideas of what they think women talk about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like, people's ideas of female comics are either they're too dirty and they talk about sex and their vaginas all the time, or they are like squeaky clean, like barely do anything, almost like borderline church-ish kind of.
Yeah.
And that's just not me. I don't really like to go one extreme or the other.
Yeah, I noticed.
I like to be a fully rounded person.
Well, I mean, you got to keep them on their toes, right?
Yeah, and also I just don't think it's interesting to cater to audiences. I don't think talking about what I think they want to talk about is very interesting. So I don't feel inspired and I don't like it.
I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's been interesting for me to watch, since everything is a clip now, right? Everything is a clip. We got a TikTok, Instagram, all of it.
Yeah.
Reading the comments of people who you can tell are kind of new comedy watchers.
Sure. Yeah.
About clips when they don't maybe understand like a full show yet.
They don't understand a full show. They don't understand context. They don't understand why it's being posted.
And female comedy specifically with that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you'll see what I've noticed is you'll see, endless amounts of clips of guys doing crowd work.
Yeah.
And it's like the typical comments of like, oh, hilarious or not funny, not for me, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I have noticed is when you see women posting the same crowd work, there's a new element of like, I guess anyone who's hot's just a comic now. And they go down that lane of like, oh, of course, like she's got tits, so she's going to be doing crowd work. And it's like
their looks.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's like we can't be more than a doll to people.
And you always kind of knew that was there. But when you start seeing a lot of those comments, at least in whatever my algorithm's doing, you'll see some of these and you're just like, the joke was solid. What are y'all talking about? Sure, there's some of them who are terrible, but also they're just trying, just like the 100 other guy comics I saw who also had a mediocre joke that they posted.
Exactly. And it's, in my opinion, it's kind of that thing where are the people amateurs? Sure. I've posted clips that haven't done well all the time. And like, that's like just learning the game, learning the algorithm, learning what feels good to you, what your audience responds to. But when the looks element comes into it, it's a level of misogyny. And also it's kind of like a level of, I'm mad at you for doing something that I don't have the balls to do. And that's really what it does come down to, because you don't know me. And like, honestly, you probably will never meet me, but you only attack the looks like, because you're mad I'm doing something that either you want to do or know you couldn't do.
Well, and I think there's always an element of, like Matt Rife experienced some of it. That was the first maybe real dude example. And then there's another guy. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. I think it's like Matt Bromgardner or something.
Matt Browniger?
I think so. Yeah, he's like another like handsome guy, but he's been doing it for like 10 or 15 years now. I think he's a legit veteran. Yeah. But I remember his jokes. Yeah, he would talk a lot about his looks that way, but I think
Phil Hanley used to be a model. He's also probably someone, if you looked back through like older clips, because he's been doing it like 20 years too. Yeah, you'd probably see some of that.
But I think even with those guys, people were always like, you can't have it all. If you're going to be funny and charismatic, we need you to be an uggo. Yeah, right. But with women, it's like. I think it's a lot easier for a woman to be pretty than it is for guys to be handsome.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. So naturally, a lot of the female comics are all going to be fairly pretty. Yeah. Just out of like, they're trying to look good. They don't want to come up there looking like, some little street rat up there.
Well, it's like Dean Lewis says, you don't want to dress and look like anyone can walk up here and do this.
Right.
So it's like, why would you expect women to go up there looking homely or like they just rolled out of bed?
Yeah.
Like,
unless they truly are that person.
If they are that person and then it's authentic, and I like that.
Yeah.
But if you like want someone to be that because you're too afraid of their femininity and you're too afraid of them being themselves and being attractive and making jokes, what does that say about you?
Yeah.
It means to me that if you are intimidated by women who are pretty and funny, it's you probably are starting to put them on a pedestal and you can't relate to them, and you're probably mad and you want to tear them down. Like most things on pedestals do come down, but that's what happens when you put people up there like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like that's one of the things I mean, it's just I've noticed over the last couple of years, like after the pandemic, there's been for the better, there's been this wave of new comics coming out, right? Yeah. And that's definitely one of the things you see. You're just like, oh, another one of those. And you're like, it's weird to think as big of a comedy boom that's happening, that's still a thing that kind of gets out there. But then you remember there's all these people who are still discovering comedy for the first time, I guess. I
am so jealous of female comics who feel so comfortable on stage wearing tube tops, wearing dresses. And that's not a knock to them at all. I just wish I felt that comfortable because they are being themselves. And like Hannah Berner does it. Esther Pazitsky does it. I'm definitely butchered her name, but like they wear whatever they want on stage, and I'm very jealous of that because they feel so comfortable, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was at that level of confidence. Yeah,
but I think so. We're millennials. I think Gen Z has like a crazy amount of confidence that I'm so jealous of.
So jealous.
You see Gen Z wearing shit where you're like, you do a double take because you were, our generation was raised with like prudeness and shame.
Oh yeah.
And I think most of them were raised with like, be yourself.
Yeah.
You're beautiful. Be yourself.
You're a crayon and a Crayola box.
Yeah.
Like that's...
And so you'll see people where, who am I to say what they should or shouldn't wear? But where my stereotype, my instinct goes to like, Jesus, they're wearing that. And then you see them and they're like, fuck, I wish I had the confidence to wear some shit like that.
Really?
Now, and then you quickly go to jealousy of like, damn, this generation seems in some ways a little more mentally healthier than we are.
I think
in other ways they're fucked.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think they're fucked because they'll post absolutely anything online.
It's crazy, right?
And our parents, I mean, I don't know about your parents, but my parents traumatized me with like anything you post online is going to ruin your life if you say the wrong thing or the bad word. Or
how many older sisters do you have again?
I have 3 older sisters and 2 younger and a younger brother.
See, I never got speeches like that, but maybe that's because you had 3 sisters go through that, or at least 1 or 2 by the time social media was getting big. Yeah,
but it's also like my parents are like super Catholic, so like they wanted us to like be conservative no matter what, like that type of thing. And it just, that's not me. That's some of them, but it's not me. So like, but if we post things, like I made a joke about Tiger Woods when he got into that accident.
Yeah.
And my dad was not happy about it because my dad loves golf. And he's like, I didn't think that was very appropriate.
What if an employer sees this?
Yeah. Well, and I was like, okay, well, like you're laughing at the jokes they made about his divorce and his infidelity. Those are in bad taste. So, it's kind of like why is the line here? You know what I mean?
They definitely, I mean, that is the first generation to be raised 100%. Like social media existed from the start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the first generation. So I think we'll never have a grasp on that. Like my parents, they were hung up on things like credit cards and like online shopping. Yeah. And they're like, never. We would never do that. And of course now they do it all. And so I think that's what it's going to be for us is you just can't fathom that they don't even think about it that way. They don't even think about privacy in that sense. They're like, yeah, everybody knows my stuff. What's the problem?
That and like my 2-year-old, like when my niece was like 2 years old, she was like, she knew how to swipe to open the iPhone.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre to me.
My son picked that up around 3.
Yeah, so
he figures it out. He doesn't know the code, but he knows what's going on.
You're like, that's one roadblock right in front of him. But so it's like just the fact that she knew that at 2 years old and just like started like clicking things and like knew to watch YouTube and like and
we had all these. Every generation thinks they're the greatest parents.
Sure,
that they fucking figured it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And So there were all these people who are like, absolutely no screen time for the first 2 years of any kind.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, how do you do that in this world? And then also, do I really want to do that? I mean, he's going to grow up with screens his whole life. We won't be able to hide screens from him ever.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff out there that is genuinely educational.
Yeah,
like when
absolutely.
you just need 20 minutes or you're about to lose your fucking mind. There's all these really educational YouTube channels now.
Yeah.
For like infant babies where it's going over colors, shapes, things that, you're like, okay, they're not talking about wild stuff. I think this is all right.
You're like, I can take a shower now.
Yeah.
I can do the dishes because they're watching this for 15 minutes.
A long time ago when Ralph was on this show and he had just had a kid, he had a baby pretty young.
Yeah, his boy,
And which was weird because he's so much younger than me, but he was, it was when my wife was pregnant. So it was roughly 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was like a 20-something-year-old's giving me advice on a kid because he's technically been a parent longer, right? Which was strange.
Gosh.
But I'll never forget, he had some of the best advice. He's like basically talking about, don't take anyone's advice because it's all kind of shitty.
Sure, yeah.
And he's like, everyone's like, sleep when the baby sleeps. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, do the laundry when the baby does the laundry? Do the dishes when the baby does the dishes? He's like, no, when they're sleeping, that's when I'm trying to get shit done.
I remember when the baby, I met him before they had the baby, and I met him, and we became friends. And then, like, I remember when he had the baby, and then, like, after when his baby was, like, around 2 years old, because I'm 4 years older than Ralph.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh, like, God, that seems so hard. Like, I can't imagine. He's like, no, Emily, you should have a kid. It would be good for you. Like, he would tell me it would be good for me.
Isn't that weird to hear like a 20-something-year-old being like, it'd be good for you?
Exactly.
And he genuinely means it.
I know he does. That's the thing.
He's not some smart-ass open mic comic going like, oh, you need a baby.
And it's like, in my head, if anyone else said it to me, I'd be like, you just want me to fade into oblivion and stop doing comedy. Like, that's how I would take it.
Typical.
Exactly.
Typical.
But
no,
he doesn't mean that. No.
We had the funniest thing I ever heard where someone was telling my wife she was ready for a baby was one of her coworkers. We went out and just got like happy hour drinks and stuff, and she was talking to the coworkers about some of the new indoor plants she bought.
Yeah.
And they were like, indoor plants or something? She's like, yeah, like I got this. And she was very specific about stuff. And they looked at me and they're like, she's ready. And I was like, damn.
You're like, what does she have to do? She's saying she wants to grow something.
She is trying
She needs to grow something.
To nurture life inside of your home. And sure enough, like she doesn't give a fuck about plants anymore.
No,
we got one plant that's made it, and it's really just on its own.
It's just that succulent in the corner.
We open the blinds for it every day. That's about it. And it's managed. But yeah, the kid thing's weird because everybody's having them at different ages now. So you can get someone super young who's got way better advice than anything you've ever heard. But
that, and it's also, I just don't think I'm going to have them. And I'm 32, and everyone is like, it's like starting to become that age where people are starting to get scared for me. Yeah. And it's so funny. They're like, you got to figure it out soon. And I'm like, or what?
Well, I think if your clock, your own personal biology isn't hitting you hard right now,
I just don't think about it. I don't ever, I think if you really want something, you'll probably think about it at some point every day.
By 32, my wife was definitely thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was on her mind. We were having discussions about it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I talked to her about on the first one. Is I was like, look, just block out the noise of like family, friends, what people think you should do. It's like, do you see yourself wanting this and being happy? Like get rid of all these like, oh, I want grandkids. Like stop.
That doesn't mean anything. I
had to tell my dad one time. I was like, you've got to. She like got up from the table. And I was like, you fucking got to quit it. All right. She's all in her head right now. You got to stop. Don't act. And he's like, okay. Like
it's a weird pressure.
Yeah. And it's like she's already spinning around in her head enough about.
Yeah.
Because thankfully she's intelligent. Like she thinks about the big picture of money, time. Will we spend time with our children? Will we have to get other jobs? How will this work? And from a big family, I'm sure you can appreciate that struggle.
Yeah.
And so she was super stressed out about it, even for the first one of just, do I know I'm ready, or is it society and everything else telling me I'm ready? I don't
even doubt that I'm. Like, I don't think I'm not ready. Like, I know I would be ready if I was pregnant and decided to have a kid. I knew I'd be ready. I know what to do. Yeah. Like, I just have that feeling and innate confidence in myself. So I don't question if I would be ready. It's just what I want to do with my life. A kid is not it doesn't fit in when I think about the lifestyle I want to have and the things I want to do with comedy and where I want to live. Like, I don't want to be in Texas forever. I want to move to New York at some point, and Adley and I are planning that. So, like, it's not going to, and we don't think about, oh, well, we need to get an apartment with an extra room for our kid.
Right.
We think we need to get an apartment with one bedroom because a studio is going to be too small, and we may get sick of each other.
I think it's like anything else. You trust your gut. It's like if you're even just kind of barely thinking about it, you probably don't want it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you've got to really be kind of like, God, I want a fucking kid.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like my sister, she is a psychologist for like children with like autism and developmental delays. And when she's doing therapy and diagnostic tests and things like that with them, she's like, the children are so great and they really try no matter what I ask them to do. And she's like, I love that. She's like, but you can tell the parents who did not want to be parents and who now they have, for somehow way, they have this child with these.
It's got even more challenges.
With these challenges. And they're fighting with you on everything.
Yeah.
And they're so upset because their idea of what their future was supposed to be looks way different. Yeah. And so now, not only they were kind of half in on having kids, now they have a kid with like special needs. And now they're like even more upset and regretful and like things they have to process. And she's like, I can just tell every time. She's like, you can just tell.
I mean, I told my wife when we were dating, and I don't think she liked it. Even to this day, I think she's still upset about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I told her, I was like, look, if you're asking me if I'm like pining for children, no. I was like, I think
it's fair. I think it'd be weird if you were.
Yeah.
If you were a man on a date and you're like, I really need to have a kid soon. Yeah. I'd be like, whoa.
There are very few men who say that phrase where you're like, that's a good dude.
Yeah.
Like there's some out there where you're like, no, he's a dad. Yeah. He's going to be a dad. I can see this 100%.
Yeah.
But no, I told her, I was like, look, I can see a happy life, pros and cons all around if you want to write them down, with 0 to 2.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go over 2 unless we somehow become insanely wealthy.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we were a family of 5 total, like 3 kids. And, we didn't have much money. Like, we weren't starving or anything. But, it was tight.
Yeah.
Just groceries and stuff. I mean, it's all tight. And you guys know.
Yeah.
And I think growing up with very little money.
Yeah.
Made me go like, yeah, no kids would not be a problem at all.
Yeah.
Not be a problem at all, because you see that struggle. And then you look at this generation that I've been thinking about it a lot lately, because the generation with the largest divorce rate, the ones who've really put us over 50% now, our parents' generation, they were the ones that were like, it's never a right time. Just figure it out. You'll figure it out, And then so many of them just tried to skate by. And it's like, man, y'all all struggled with money.
Yeah.
Then all those companies you thought you could work for 30 years fucked you over.
Yeah. No pension anymore.
Yeah. And then wars and shit started to happen. The country got weird. And then it was way harder to raise your kids. And you two were fighting all the time. And then you got a divorce and everything. Nothing got easier with a divorce.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, unless you were in like an abusive thing, but... Now it's like, no, you still have to see each other and raise this kid.
Yes.
And now it's even more awkward.
I don't know how people pick the right partner. Like, I have a good partner right now. Like, my boyfriend is an amazing person.
Do you think you picked a partner, or do you think it was just a bunch of circumstances and it kind of worked out?
I picked a partner.
Okay.
When I was on dating apps, I had specific criteria, and I wouldn't go out with people who, even though they looked nice or they were attractive, if they didn't fulfill this criteria, I wasn't going to go out with them. For certain things, because I knew myself and I knew what arguments I did want to have and what I didn't want to have. In certain arguments, I just don't want to have. I don't want to have an argument with someone if they're dead set on having kids. Yeah. And I'm not. And it's like, they could be attractive, great people. I'm not going to do that. Or if there was a man who didn't want to be self-sufficient, I wasn't going to have that. That's not going to work for me. Like, I'm not asking you to pay my bills, but don't think that you're going to be staying home playing video games all day. Right. I don't want a man with no ambition. And you can just tell which people don't have that, and that wouldn't work out for me. Yeah.
Well, and oh man, like how many, I'm thinking of all my friends who got with the wrong person because they thought like, oh, they'll change. That's just the thing they're doing now. And it's like, I don't think they're going to change. And sure enough, they didn't. That was their personality.
They were never going to change. And people only change for themselves when they do change. They don't change for anyone else. And so it's like, I would have to think, I'm like, can I live with this for 50 years? can I live with them leaving their socks on the floor? Or can I live with them having these issues? Whatever it is. And if I can't see it, it's like, why do that? I do fully believe that there's probably like in this entire earth, there's probably 1,000 people that you could marry and have a good life with all over the entire world. So it's like, I don't believe that I could never find another person again.
Yeah.
So I really have to be smart and selective with who I spend my time with. Because it's just, to me, I think it's a waste. Like, because otherwise I have to fucking move and find another person somewhere because this city's burnt to the ground.
Well, yeah, it's just, it's so interesting. People, you're coming at it from a very like pragmatic standpoint too. And I think people struggle to think like there's romance with that, but there is. You're just saying, I know exactly what I want, and that makes it easier to be happy and have romance.
Well, and it's like I know what I'm going to put effort into. So if you are aligning with my goals and what I want in my life, I'm going to put the effort into it because I am a high effort person, and I do that all the time with everything that I do. So I definitely do it with my partner. And so I'm not going to, like, it's kind of that saying, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like, I'm high effort, so I'm not going to do well with someone who isn't high effort.
Right.
And I can be pragmatic about it because I know what I want my happiness to be. And like real love is like having happiness with someone. And I don't want to like be like fighting with someone, begging them to do the right thing when they were that person the whole time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that all the time.
Yeah.
You see those people just having like knockdown, drag out arguments out in public.
I just tell my friends, I don't want to meet any more boyfriends. Just when he proposes to you and you're happy, cool.
That's
but
hilarious.
Your boyfriend's not my friend.
How do they take that?
They're fine with it.
That's good.
They're fine. That's a boundary. And it's not even like I know their boyfriends are good people, but like you're like, I just don't want to put the effort in if you're dating a shithead. I don't want to try to be friends with this person if I know is probably not going to work out.
Yeah.
Because this is volatile or rocky for whatever reason.
Yeah. I'm kind of that way. I'm getting that way with people who aren't married.
What do you mean? Like you don't want to have like non-married friends or?
No, non-married friends are fine, but like I think there's levels, right? Like when you're not married versus married, I think there are certain conversations. Like your life's in a new path, kind of like when you have kids and don't have kids. It's like there's levels of conversation I can have with parents that I'll never ever be able to have with non-parents.
Sure.
Right? I think the same goes with marriage because it's just like, if you've done it correctly, like, because we talk about it all the time. It's like it is thick or thin. Like we're not going to be part of this divorce statistic. This is it.
Yeah.
And we joke around all the time. It's like we're not going back out there.
Yeah.
We're not.
Oh God, I wouldn't want you to. It's horrible.
Like I saw
No.
this great meme where it was like, no, we're not getting divorced. We're just going to go to bed and try again tomorrow.
I am shocked at how many people are so easily like okay with going to divorce. I know on a real level it's not that easy as it seems, but some people I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, was there even a second thought? Because it's just not that I know everything behind the scenes, but it's like when people have like multiple marriages, and it's like when I went to Florida, I was at some trap shooting.
I loved that story, by the way.
And there was this older gentleman who's probably like 60-something, 65, around that age. And then he saw one of his buddies there, and they were in line because we had to pay for the ammo before. And he was talking to some girl who looked like my age. She looked like early 30s. And she walked away, and he goes, "Oh, is that your daughter, your granddaughter?" And he goes, "Oh no, that's my third wife." He literally goes like that. "That's my third wife." And he was like, "Oh, she's just so young." He's like, "Yeah, I know." Like he was like that. He was so casual about it.
I mean, I guess if it's clearly like a gold digging situation and everybody's on board, then I'm fine with it. But I don't know. That's so weird. I don't know. I'm pro gold digger.
I am pro gold digger.
As long as the person being dug is fully aware of it.
Yeah,
if you guys know the situation and there's no shenanigans, it's like, hey, go live your life. I think that's fine. If that's what makes both of you happy, then you're good.
Yeah.
But like the regular marriages where like if that guy is really trying to find happiness and this is his third run, it's like, what are you doing with this girl?
Nah, this guy had money. Because I don't know if you guys have you been to like a specialty like shooting range or anything like that?
No, Emily, no. I'm not living that life.
I was introduced to it. I don't live that life either. I'm visiting, I don't live there. But it's rich older men. Ladies, if you want to take up a hobby that's expensive and you'll meet men, go trap shooting. Because renting guns is expensive, paying for the ammo. And these people don't rent. They have their own.
And they want to show off.
They want to show off.
They want to show you they can spend that money.
They absolutely do. And when we were there was some benefit that was going on at the range. And it was for this was in Florida. It was for the North Florida Bar Association.
Yep.
It was just so funny. So it's like rich lawyers and stuff. But the law firm that was putting it on was a personal injury law.
No, that's right. God.
At a shooting range. And I was like, oh my God,
genius, right?
You're giving candy to a baby. You're going to have a client here.
Man.
Of course, there's some idiot who, and they're all like have like their cigars and they're like hanging out. So funny. And they serve them barbecue. Some of the slipperiest food. You're waiting.
You're drunk. You got a slippery trigger finger.
Yes.
This is amazing.
I'm like, these people are collecting clients.
Yeah.
That's not chess, that's checkers.
Yeah.
Like that they're doing something totally different.
How many old rich women were there?
0.
Damn. Because I told my wife, I was like, if we don't make it for whatever reason, and she's 100% on board with this. Yeah. I was like, I'm only marrying once for love.
Sure.
One time, that is it.
Absolutely.
If this doesn't work, we are going for the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Come on.
I want to find some old broad who's okay with me. Like, I'll get in shape. I'll do whatever I need to do.
If you went to college, would you go for the same degree, or would you get a degree that made more money?
Exactly.
See, that's what I'm saying.
And if I hadn't have found her yet, I would have been marrying for money also.
Absolutely.
And they would have been on board with. I would not have lied. I'd be like, look, I'm looking to hit the gym every day and make you feel great about yourself when you come home from that big business day, sweetie.
I'll have dinner cooked.
A
bottle of wine open.
What do we need to do?
Yeah.
You need to talk some shit about some people? Let me know. I'll be stirring some pasta into that fucking bitch. I'll do it.
Talking shit in a relationship is so important. That is vital. I'm like, if you're not willing to hate on the same people I hate on, no, don't give people the benefit of the doubt. Hate them with me.
We have to constantly preface, like, we don't say this when we're like out in public. And it's like, yeah, duh. Of course. I don't talk to anybody about stuff the way I talk to you. Are you kidding me?
You're like, we can't testify against each other. Of course, I'm not telling other people. I can only tell you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I told her too. I was like, if you ever leave me and you don't go for money, I'm going to be very disappointed in you.
You can't. No, you can't go down.
No. No.
Unless she hit the jackpot for somehow and didn't tell you, absolutely not.
Yeah. I did upset her because I told her if I ever won the lottery, she would not know.
You would hide the money from her?
I think, well, I would never, I wouldn't make her think.
How would you, do you file joint taxes right now? Because you would have to report that income.
Yeah.
So you couldn't hide that from her because you'd have to pay on it.
Yeah, but I'd get somebody to like do the taxes. Don't worry about it, baby. What are you doing? You're busy. She's got a career.
Let me
She's
take
got
this
kids.
load off you.
Well, and because what I told her is I don't want anyone knowing.
Sure.
Like I would, if I won it right now.
Sure.
I would want you to think like this guy doesn't have any money, right? Like
you'll wear that shirt for another 5 years.
Yeah, and then I would just the hard part would be trying to build it to where like no, because if people think you won the lottery, they want your money.
Absolutely.
If they think you worked for it and earned it, they're a little less likely to come out. You'll still get some, but they're little. So I'd have to be like, we bought a rent house and then we bought a couple more.
Yeah.
Things went, I invested in this thing. It kind of worked out.
Yeah.
It'd be like a 10-year plan. Because I told her, I was like, I just don't want people finding out. And she's like, well, I wouldn't tell anyone. I was like, no, the first person you would tell would be your mom.
Exactly. Because you would be stoked you didn't have to work anymore.
Yeah, and she's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd have to tell her. And I was like, boom, now everyone in the family knows. Your mom's got the person she's got to tell. They got the whole family is like.
And then suddenly someone's kid's sick. And then suddenly a car breaks down. Yeah. And then suddenly.
Or crazier, like, what if one of your crazy relatives is like, we could murder them. We could kill them. There's been plenty of datelines that go down that way.
I have a family member who's done some like lawsuit scams, and I'm not going to name names, but like I would not tell those people.
Just because they're family doesn't mean. Most people when they get robbed, it's by somebody who's been in their home before.
Have you heard of this type of this robbery scam for funerals? Have you heard about this? Oh my God.
No, please go on.
So this is so sad, but this is insane, and I heard about this recently only because we had Jan Norton passed away from Backdoor. And someone said, okay, well, like we already had her funeral memorial and whatnot, but they were like, oh yeah, like, we need to make sure that like someone's like at the house or like can stop by the house, make sure everything's okay, because apparently people, when they know someone is going, like an entire family is going to be away at a funeral,
jeez,
they rob people's houses. That's insane.
Fucking
I was
garbage.
like, are you the devil?
Yeah.
Are you the devil doing that's insane wild. To do at people's lowest point.
Yeah, like that's I mean, you just don't want to believe someone's that shitty.
You don't.
But someone out there is rationalizing it, like they're not going to use it.
Oh my gosh.
Someone's rationalizing the crime.
My sister's car got stolen recently, and I don't think I even told you the story. So since it's been cold, like she'll start her car, and her car's not like one of the ones that have like the push to start. So she has to like actually do the manual ignition.
She's working with keys still.
Yeah, still keys.
She's got to turn the keys in and then leave the key. I already see where this is going.
It's a Ford Fusion. Yeah, you know what's going to happen. So she starts her car for 10 minutes in the morning while she's finishing getting ready, so it's warm. She did that one morning and she came out and it was gone.
Yeah.
And my parents live in a decent neighborhood. It's not gated, but it's like nice. It's like people keep everything nice looking. And there was a bike on the ground next to where
somebody
her car
was riding by and saw a car.
Literally, someone was riding by, saw a car, stole it. Damn. So they reported it to the police, the insurance and whatnot. Found the next day, 10 miles away. They didn't destroy it, which I was like, okay. But they had a wig in there. They had a saw from like a construction site, some financial documents from said construction site, and just like like fast food trash. They literally just took this thing on a joyride and stole random stuff.
Well, when you said wig, at first I was thinking
wig.
Yeah, but at first I was thinking like, oh, somebody did some like role play. That was like a sex car for a day.
I mean,
but then when you said Saul in personal documents,
that's why I was like, okay, maybe they like robbed some venue that's going to start doing drag shows. Like, why the wig? And they said it was like, I think it was like a purple wig or something. It wasn't even one that like you wouldn't look at twice if you saw someone wearing.
So purple wig makes me think sex adventure again.
Yeah.
That someone's just like, we need a good sex car.
But in like a white Ford Fusion?
It's just
not
like
that great.
Somebody's just like, oh, you're my thief. And like, I'll steal anything for you.
Can you imagine two people on the back of this bike just pulling up and they're
like how you
baby, the time is now.
I like how you thought they were together. My mindset was this person stole the car and was like, baby, check out what I got for us. Like they went and picked them up later.
Oh no, I think you have to like when
they're
couples
on the
pegs. when couples make rash sex decisions, I think they have to be together in the moment.
Yeah.
You can't, it's kind of like what I would imagine. I haven't been in this scenario, but if a couple wanted to have a threesome, you can't bring the person over just by yourself. Like the couple has to be out together, pick a person, and then they all three go home.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't work. You know what I mean? That dynamic, I feel like that wouldn't work. So I feel like you have to make those kind of decisions.
I think a woman trying to bring in another woman could probably easily pull that off.
Oh, that's true.
Right?
Her husband would probably be like, thanks, I didn't have to put pants on. This was great.
The guy is always the one, like, if someone's like, so my wife and I are into you, and you're like, where's your wife? And they're like, she's at home. Trust me. Like that's when it's not working out.
It's the Law and Order gung gung.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Oh my gosh. No, I talk to my wife about those things all the time. I'm like, you can't, like, because we're in an okay neighborhood. I was like, but I would go to the nice neighborhood to steal shit if I wanted to.
Yeah,
I'm not going to steal it out of the poor neighborhood.
No. Number one, that does make me feel bad because they probably, if they had something nice, they probably saved up for it a lot. Yeah. At least with like, it's that Robin Hood aspect of you're like, oh, well, they're rich. They can buy another one. This isn't going to, financially ruin them. Yeah. Like,
we live in a neighborhood where people are still stupid enough. Like we are the poorest people in our neighborhood. Like we went to a nicer neighborhood.
That's a good way to be.
That's what we wanted to be, right? Mm-hmm. So we are the ones doing our best to keep the taxes in check, right?
Just shooting guns off.
Yeah, we're just
to keep rent low.
Every now and then I park the truck just right in the grass on the front yard.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, but we'll walk our dog, and it's like around Christmas or whatever. There are like huge boxes of their 80-inch TVs they just got just sitting on the curb for trash pickup.
Rob me.
Yeah, and I'm just like, these people have no clue. They have never ever been in even like a middle class neighborhood.
No,
and we live in a middle class neighborhood.
Yeah.
We're rich neighborhood adjacent.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how? Like, y'all shouldn't be. How do you not know this is a horrible plan? And like the people who don't close the blinds or curtains on their windows at night. You know those neighborhoods?
Who does that? Yeah.
Lots of people do that.
The
more wealthy the neighborhood, the more the windows are wide open with all the lights on
we want you to see inside. You just can't come inside.
Yeah.
Like that's very
They want it. It's there. I think it's a new money thing. I think the more you're new money, you're like, look at our stuff. Old money is like, get the fuck out of my life. You know, they just want to be normal.
Yeah. I can tell, like my boyfriend's family is well-to-do but they're like, I can tell it's old money because when I said your parents are rich, he goes, no, they're wealthy. And he doesn't wear any type of like designer stuff. And he has the money for it. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
He's not that person. He doesn't care about that stuff. He's like all like travel and experience based. And I'm like, that's someone who grew up with money.
They have money, but they're like, we buy Volvos because they last.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care about that stuff.
But that's real money, right? Real money is not thinking about money anymore.
Yeah.
And not thinking like money impresses.
Yeah.
Because money, it doesn't impress anyone.
I'm not impressed when people have flashy things because I know most of them are in debt.
I was telling someone today, I was like, if I ever had like a really, really nice sports car, just something that I enjoyed driving, it would probably be like a Porsche.
Yeah.
Because they're the most like, yes, it's an expensive car and anyone who looks at it knows it's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's very subtle still. It's you don't look at that and go, Jesus, what a douche.
Yeah.
Whereas when you pull up in your bright yellow Lamborghini, it's like this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were talking about that of like, if I had a Lamborghini, the only people that are going to be impressed by that are like 22-year-olds that I don't want to talk to. No normal adult that has any sense is going to be like, love your Lambo.
Yeah.
You know?
And also, you're going to get so many people touching your car.
Yeah.
Taking pictures next to your car.
And now they
looking
sit
in
on
your
them.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's just I'm like, I don't want you to touch my stuff ever.
Yeah.
And I don't drive a nice car, so thankfully no one usually does. But like, if I had no, of course I wouldn't have that.
Yeah. No, I drive a Toyota Tacoma now. And it's like, I would love to just put like 400,000 miles on that. Yeah. And then on the weekends, have like a Porsche that comes out of the garage. And like, I'm going to go for a drive.
Yeah, of course.
And like, we don't need to take it anywhere. This is for me. Or truthfully, what I want is I hate flying for the inconvenience. I just think flying's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So if I can road trip it, I want to road trip it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do like road trips. I have flying anxiety though.
Oh,
so
no.
I don't like flying. So I prefer road trips, but I do know flying is more convenient sometimes.
No, like if we were going to go to like New Mexico, Colorado, something like that.
Oh, well, that's not too far. Yeah.
I want a car that sits comfortably at like 90 miles an hour.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it still feels plush and quiet.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what a luxury car is like, it goes fast, not because I'm trying to race anyone.
Sure.
It like 100's not an issue.
No.
If it's just like, ooh, we drifted up to 100. Let's slow back down a little bit so we don't get a ticket.
That's
but meanwhile,
smooth
the
ride.
seat massager's on.
Oh,
it's a perfect temperature inside. You can't hear all the poor people you're passing,
You're like, it's frosty on the window, but you don't feel it.
Exactly. So that's really what I want out of luxury is like, I just want the comfort. I don't need flash. I don't want you to think I have money.
Yeah. I saw when we were in Florida, we went out to eat at some restaurant and someone there had a Lamborghini SUV.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're defeating the purpose of the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
The Lamborghini is the low car that goes flat, that can like go under those little like things that like keep you from leaving parking garages. That is what a Lamborghini does. The SUV is stupid.
It's purely look at my Lamborghini because it is not worth like in terms of an SUV, it's like just go buy a Toyota.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, you want something nice? Get a Lexus. It's the same thing. It's reliable. No, it's going to be a terrible SUV.
Oh my God, yeah.
But no, it's just look at me. I mean, we live here in Dallas, so there's tons of look at me going on around here. And tons of that new money nonsense all the time.
It's very interesting to me because it's like almost now labels are kind of like becoming out of trend. Like with women's clothing at least and like designer purses and that stuff. Like the more flashy the label it is, the more it's now starting to be seen as like cheap looking.
Yeah.
And that is, I feel like designers probably hate that because that's not the truth. Those things are expensive, but it's starting to look tacky.
But they did it to themselves because they marketed all of that stuff to people who can't afford it to begin with.
Sure.
So they created the clientele that they didn't want buying their stuff.
Yeah.
But they were happy to take all their money the whole time.
Yeah, like Gucci puts the most ads on Facebook.
Yeah.
Most people on Facebook can't have Gucci.
100%. Well, and then the flip side of that is like, I worked with this woman. Mm-hmm. She legitimately was probably making like $14 an hour at the time. That's what she was making. And she had bought some brand new purse, and it was like $1,900 because when she brought it to work, she had the receipt with her in her purse, so she could show people her $1,900 purse or whatever it was.
That's tacky.
But for her, it was like,
I made it.
Yeah, look at me. This is what I get. It's like. And she like always had her nails done, always had her hair done. So it's like, I know you're not making enough to pull this off, that you're just pinching pennies to do this.
Did she like have a partner that helped support her? Or
she was married, but neither of them were making big money, not enough to justify those purchases.
I would be mad at my partner if they were doing that. Not because it's like, hey, like I know like, yeah, we all like some nice things here once in a while, but like always to have those things or to need those things. I'm like, okay, we need to have a talk about like what you really think this says to you about yourself if you feel like you need to have these things.
Well, but I think so. Like when I was growing up poor, I would have wanted flashier things then, because I think that's your like not coping, but you're trying to make up for what you lack. Look at me, I'm not poor.
Yeah.
And really, because you didn't have the confidence yet to think nobody really gives a shit. Yeah. And anybody who does give a shit's not worth knowing.
Yeah.
So but that was your way. I need these shoes, these things. And then I think that's just a natural part of if how you're making your money is also fulfilling, then I think you very quickly stop caring about that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're making a ton of money and you're not fulfilled, that's when you still start buying the junk. Like you're still a 40, 50-year-old buying gadgets.
Yeah. I think wealth is like when, like kind of like what you talked about with the car, like the more convenience I have.
Yeah.
Like the easier things are, like that's really the purpose of wealth is to make your life easier. And if I'm struggling to get these designer things to display wealth and I'm like, really, like you said, pinching pennies, making bad decisions, it's defeating the purpose of what wealth is supposed to do. So it's kind of like you're shooting yourself in the foot to like display wealth that you don't really have. Yeah. And now you're actually in a worse position because you decided you wanted to pretend like you had wealth instead of being okay with what you have and then saving that money to grow wealth. So
100%. Yeah, convenience is what I want.
Yeah.
I never want to get an oil change again.
Yeah.
That type of stuff.
Right?
All the things that take 30 minutes here and there, if I can get rid of all of that, if I can hire people to do those things, then I'll feel like I'm so rich.
Exactly.
Because I told my wife, I was like, I don't need the big home. Like if we're just billionaires and we get a big home, fine, whatever. But I would much rather just have a personal chef.
Yes. I love cooking, so that's a little bit different. But I understand
But you can cook on your own terms, right?
Yeah.
I want to know when I wake up, someone's making me. I wish I could remember her name. There's this great comic. I saw this probably like 15 years ago. She, I think maybe Maddie. Is there a Maddie, like an older comic, female comic, Maddie something? Anyhow.
There's a Kathleen Madigan.
I think that might be her.
Okay, yeah. I love her.
She was talking about Oprah.
Yeah.
She's like, I was watching Oprah talk about her struggles with weight and all this kind of stuff. And she was like, you have so much money. She's like, bitch, you could just hire someone to slap the food out of your hand.
And that's the truth.
It's like, why are you talking to us like we're the same?
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I think of for the chef. It's like someone to just go slide a plate over and go, this is what you're eating.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, give me a Pop-Tart. And they're like, this is why you hired me. Like,
and that's what wealthy people do is they hire people that they know more than they do, and they have to trust them.
Exactly.
And they because they're like, I know I'm paying good money for this. I'm shooting myself in the foot. Again, I keep saying that. I don't know why. I think it's the gun range I went to once. And I was like, if I don't do it, then I'm like defeating the purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm wasting this. Why should I have this personal chef if I'm just going to ask them to make me mac and cheese all the time?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that going to do?
Yeah. And just, I'd like to think if I become wealthy, I can also look at it as like, I'm employing people too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would want to pay you really well to be my chef, to know that you also feel fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure.
Know? And
I don't want people being like starving and stuff. Like,
no.
That's ironic. A starving
I
chef.
want the person who does the laundry that's like happy when they show up in the morning, and I'm like, hey, how's it going, so and so? You know, that to me is like real wealth. And then you know, you hop in your Toyota Tacoma and go do whatever, and they're just like, why doesn't he buy a new fucking car?
It's like, because I like having other things done for me.
If it gets dented, I don't care. Like, you know?
It's. I can't remember who said this, but I think this is so true about the way Americans and people think about wealth. Is that Americans are never poor; they're just temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Because that is the truth. So many people, like, even though their finances will reflect it, will not admit that they're poor, or will not admit that they're in a tax bracket that is their actual reality versus the one that they try to live in.
I have a couple relatives that you just wish you could have that conversation with of, hey, you are like with politics, you know, they'll make decisions that are benefiting people much, much wealthier than them.
Yeah.
Because in their mind, they still identify as like, I will be that soon.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
why would I not vote for these laws? Like when I sell my yacht, I don't want to pay these taxes.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you know, you're at an age now this is probably not going to happen for you. You do realize this, right? And like your work ethic, all those things, they've never really been up to the point of the people who do make this money.
Yeah.
Because I'm not one of those, I don't hate all billionaires just because you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
I pick out which ones you want, but they still, as much as I dislike a lot of, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name right now, Amazon.
Bezos.
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, yeah.
As much as I dislike a lot of his things and what I think he should do, it's like, he did start Amazon from nothing.
Yeah, as a book reseller.
Like that should have failed.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably close to failing, right? But, and then he pivoted. So it's like, well, he did a thing. I think he could do it better, but he also did something that I wasn't capable of doing. So here we are, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, no one can get to billionaire status without exploitation.
Right.
And I think that's the honest conversation people don't like to admit, especially when they're defending their billionaires.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, no, look what he has. And he did this all on his own. I said, no. He started something and then exploited people. And I'm sorry, yes, Amazon has a lot of conveniences, and I'm not saying I never benefit from it.
Yeah.
But I also know they exploit people. It's like diamond rings. Where did you get it?
I know.
Before these lab grown, where did you get it?
Right. And how, don't get me on that. Don't get me on that, because I'm one of those, I try to think of value for money, right? And you can get beautiful lab-made diamonds.
My
now.
sister's
fucking
just
gorgeous,
got one.
and you will never. All these people are like, I can tell. It's like you can't tell.
No,
you can't tell. The only way you can tell is they probably laser etch something in there under a microscope, so we know that's what it is.
And you have some very special like magnifying glass that can see
and again,
something. Yeah.
Anyone who's looking at it to that point, don't you just go, hey, fuck off.
Yeah. If you're that concerned with my diamond, I'm going to think you're probably wanting to steal it.
Yeah.
So you can resell it. But if you're a normal person going your day to day, I see women's rings and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. But I'm not like, oh my God, I wonder if it's real or not.
And you've never, and like, if I asked you about the woman's ring you saw last week, you don't remember a thing about it. Right?
Couldn't tell you.
The only time you really think about that is when you yourself are shopping for a ring and you're thinking about, what do I like? What are the designs that I like? And then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time is just talking shit about, oh, those rings are hideous.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, my gosh. There's this British woman who used to work at like a royal jeweler for the family, and she will judge people's engagement rings on TikTok. And she has like a lovely accent. She's British, but the way she like talks about these things, it's like brutal, but it's so funny. And I love her. And I'm also like, oh my gosh, I can't have an ugly ring when I get a ring.
You just got to like looking at it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like anything else. No matter what you get, someone's going to think it's a pile of shit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%. I'm like, it's like your man. Not everyone's going to like your man.
Yeah.
So you might as well get the ring you want to. Because you already picked the man. You might as well get the ring that you want.
The thought of how unethical some of the diamond practices are, but that's one of the things people overwhelmingly overlook. They're like, yeah, but I'd still prefer the real one.
Yeah, you know those miners, when they're in Sierra Leone digging for diamonds, they stick the diamonds in their gums so they don't lose them, because their pockets will rip and they will lose their money. So if you think about the diamonds where they're coming from. They're literally cutting their own gums open because they have to stick the diamonds in there. And they will fish underwater sometimes for diamonds. And they'll have a literal plastic tube that someone is just holding up at the top.
To breathe through? Jesus.
It is like the sketchiest, like you wouldn't do that on Fear Factor. You wouldn't do that on any show ever for any amount of money because you just know it's like a death sentence. But
and just to be clear, I'm guilty too. Bought my wife a diamond, 100% guilty, hypocrite talking about it
Sorry,
right
you guys,
now.
I'm innocent.
Yeah.
I've never bought anyone a
For
diamond.
now.
Now.
No, people talk about that like with cell phones and all those things of you should be able to switch the flex. Like you should be able to go like, oh yeah, this is 100%, a slave-free phone, which is a crazy thing to think about.
That's a crazy sentence to say.
But every phone that has ever been made has some sort of slave labor in it right now. And we're all like, yeah, but I mean,
we're so casual that we sit on them. I'm like, come on. We could do better than that.
What would I buy if I didn't buy this one?
Oh my gosh.
But really, if Apple or whoever wanted to make a phone without that and it cost like a couple $100 more, I think people would buy that.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
for sure. It would be a bigger flex.
Yeah.
It'd be a bigger flex to have the cruelty-free iPhone.
Yeah.
The
if it was like
non-GMO.
laser-edged cruelty. Or worse, if you were just like, if you had something crazy on there like slave phone, like on those phones.
I mean,
if you put something like that on there, you could mark up the other one to whatever you want.
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
I cannot buy this fucking phone. Did you see this?
Oh, my gosh. Torture. Yeah.
Pro-slavery. Right on the phone.
Torture required.
Yeah. If it had a picture of the person who mined the lithium or whatever's in there, or the cobalt, whatever they're doing.
I donate to this one charity. It's called Canine Partners for Life. And what they do is they like raise puppies from birth, like very specific for an individual that they're like handpicked for their specific needs.
Oh, okay.
So it can be like if you have like a neurological or if you're blind or if you have like seizures, like that dog is raised from birth for you specifically. It costs $30,000 to raise that dog, but they send you picture updates of the dog, but it keeps you trapped in. You can't stop because I'm like, I really have to see what Kodak is going to do because he's only 6 months old and he's not ready. But like, it's so funny. But if you had that picture of the person who made your iPhone, you'd be so much more invested.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you bought the cruelty-free one, so-and-so was able to go to the 7th grade.
I know. They had new shoes and clean pants. And you're like, wow, I feel good about myself.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, what do you do, right?
I know. Well, you can't escape exploitation. Like, you really can't.
Well, because the first thing I thought when you're telling that story is I'm thinking like, man, I bet there's a couple companies out there that do that, and they don't do shit with dogs. They just take the money and they just send random pictures, and it's all phony. Because there's always pieces of shit,
Yeah, there's always like scam.
Yeah. There's always Joel Osteens.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, I think was it Bill Burr or someone said that they couldn't follow Joel Osteen because like maybe it was Sebastian Maniscalco who said like he like talks like this, like he closes his eyes, like he doesn't even believe himself. I'm like, that's true.
He's such garbage.
When there was the hurricane in Houston, he wouldn't even open up his church for people who were displaced from the flooding and whatnot. And I'm like, is that not the point of a church?
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic, so I'm very anti mega cult or mega church culture cult. Yeah,
it is a cult.
They put the cult in culture.
Yeah.
for mega for mega churches, and I'm very against that. And to me that's just more proof.
Yeah,
I'm like, if you were really caring about your congregation, you would have let those people come in.
It would have been it
wouldn't be a question.
No, and I've just always thought, I think the way you're talking about it is 100% the way to do it, but. If I just wanted to play devil's advocate and just go, let's just say we want to be...
Men love doing that.
Let's just say we want to be greedy.
Yeah.
I'm Joel Osteen, and I don't want you in my church stinking it up.
Yeah.
But...
Getting mud on the floors.
Yeah, but I'm greedy. What a PR move it is to go, oh, no. Here at Lakewood Church in Houston, we are always open for the community. We are here for you, and God is here for you.
Yeah.
And the prosperity we have can be shared with you as well. Please come in. Like, it's a full sales pitch the whole time these homeless people that their homes are flooded now are in there. You're building your congregation, you moron.
Think about the billionaires he makes. How much did it cost for him would have had to feed these people peanut butter sandwiches
and don't forget,
give them water bottles.
And someone when I was having that conversation, they were like, yeah, it'd be a tax write-off. And it's like, no, he pays no taxes.
There is no,
Yeah. He's already not having to pay the taxes.
It's upsetting to me that people don't even realize that churches are tax exempt because they said that would be a tax write-off. No, there is no taxes.
If it was a tax write-off, he might actually do it.
Yeah.
But he already doesn't have to worry about the fucking taxes. So he's like, no, get out of here. And in the meantime, it's like, man, he probably could have had other rich people who are at the congregation donate money to fix all the carpet or whatever was going to get messed up.
Anyone.
He wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And he'd get to go on a big news thing with CNN and Fox, whoever he wants, about like, we saved everyone because the Lord, hallelujah. And you could have hammed it up with your phony bullshit as much as you wanted.
And
I've never understood that. The same with Bezos. Like, if you're a billionaire, it's like, I don't think you should be forced to do anything because I think it's America and you have freedom.
Yeah, what you want to do with your money, yeah.
But you should have an overwhelming urge and understanding like, I will never spend this. I could change so many people's lives for the better. You should have an urge to do that.
10 generations after him won't.
No.
They'll never have to work. And that money will grow. It just won't. It won't.
At one point, they did a calculation, and it's more now, but it was if you made $70,000 a day, every day, from the time Christ was born.
Okay.
At the time he was worth $120 billion. If you made that money all the way from year zero up to 2020 or whatever it was, you were at $119 billion. You still weren't quite there yet. It was some crazy I mean, check the numbers. That might be a little off, but it was some crazy number like that where you're like, fuck. How?
What does that mean about someone who wants to like hoard wealth like that? Like wealth that's like so beyond grotesque that like, of course, not even like you'll never spend it. You don't know how to spend it.
Well,
you don't know how
he built
that.
that big yacht.
Yeah,
and they were going to tear down a bridge to get it out to sea.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that story? There was a bridge in, I don't know, maybe Holland, wherever they build ships.
Probably.
But the bridge was like hundreds of years old. It was like a thing. And he was like, yeah, we're going to take it apart, get the ship through, and then we'll put it back together. And the whole place was like, no, we're not going to do that.
What?
And it was a big
good
deal.
For them.
And then he built some clock out in the desert that's going to tell time for, like 10,000 years or something. You end up doing these stupid fucking projects.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at him in the old days, he was a nerdy guy.
Sure.
He's a nerdy dude.
Yeah. It's revenge of the nerds kind of for him.
I think he's never gotten that chip off his shoulder.
No, most men don't.
Right,
you have to go to therapy.
Because it doesn't matter how much money you get. You're still that person.
Yeah.
So you'd be way better off just finding those nerdy people like you and being happy.
Yeah.
And you can and then you'll have the money and you'll be happy. And like locally, it's like Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
I think Mark Cuban has a great amount of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
He knows who he is.
Yeah.
He knows that he basically has like a frat boy mentality on a lot of stuff, especially in his earlier days.
Sure.
And that people are going to talk shit about that. And he's like, I don't care. This is me.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when the pandemic hit, his employees, like at American Airlines Center and stuff like that would have lost their jobs, he just paid them.
Yeah.
He was like, no, it's the right thing to do. You'll get paid for all the games that we had to cancel. You're still going to get your check.
He's very Dallas focused. Like he wouldn't let people in Dallas lose their jobs.
Right.
Not saying I shouldn't say he wouldn't, but like in those scenarios, like I can see why he's like really community based.
Yeah.
Like that's part of his brand.
Well, I think he's smart enough to know like these are the people who buy tickets and jerseys. You need to treat them well. These are your customers. Like again, even if he doesn't, I think he genuinely cares about these people. But even if he didn't, it's a smart move. Yeah,
it's like Frank Lucas in American Gangster, where he was like you got to take care of Harlem because Harlem will take care of you.
Yeah,
and that's the same. It's the same mentality.
Yeah, he'd also at that same time he had teamed up. I think he told his workers it was something like he would reimburse them for their meal if they bought it from a local restaurant.
Okay.
And then I think he teamed up with like DoorDash and those places to get stuff like that done.
Okay.
To then again promote local business and try to keep things afloat.
Keep things alive, yeah.
I don't know how much it helped, but it's like at least you're trying.
Yeah, it's an effort. Yeah.
And then to think he doesn't even hold a candle to Bezos' wealth.
Oh my gosh.
It's like you could pick whatever your thing is that's dear to you and you could solve it.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever your thing is.
He could solve the issues with funding for public schools. He could
just build
world hunger.
all of the schools and be like, yeah, they're free.
And he would still be wealthy.
If you guys go buy Amazon, I think we can keep tuition free. Shop
Yeah.
Amazon. And you would be like, fuck, I'll buy stuff from Amazon. I don't want to pay for school.
Yeah. But I also think that like people at that kind of wealth, because of they know the power that having that much money has, and how many people are trying to always like pitch something to them and like get them to do some type of philanthropic like work, whatever it could be. I think they get off on like dangling the carrot. I think really that is for a lot of people, because like at least what I tell people, like at least in comedy and stuff, when people are getting kind of desperate for bookings and whatnot, I'm like, hey, if you tell them they can fuck you, they don't want to fuck you. And that's the truth. I'm not saying don't take the gig, but I'm saying if you make it so incredibly desperate and obvious, they are not going to want to put you on. They're not going to like it.
Yeah.
And it's not saying don't ask for things you don't want, but like don't tell them that they can fuck you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you got to have a little bit of something, a little bit of separation from what you actually want and what they think they have.
Yeah.
Those things are different.
Whitney Cummings, I listened to her talk on some podcast for quite a bit about the power of no. The power of just, it's fine to turn some things down.
Yeah.
Let people know that you have some standards.
Yeah.
And politely turn things down if it's not for you, you know?
Yes.
And that ends up, as long as you're still working, you know?
Yeah.
As long as you're still trying, you're not just be like, no.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, then just quit. Yeah. If you want to quit, just say you want to quit.
But it's like, if you feel like you're working hard and that is a little beneath you, or you're worried they're going to screw you over, it's just don't do it.
Yeah.
Or know your worth. Like charge the appropriate amount if you're going to do it.
I definitely, I can't remember who told me this, but I know it to be true. Female comics turn down more work than male comics do. And it's because we have to take in certain calculations for a gig. Who are we traveling with? How far are we going? We can't sleep in our cars.
Yeah.
That's not safe for women. So it's like we're taking in more things that have to be accounted for. Our standards are higher, that we have to accept something. And so we do end up saying no. And I know I say no than most of my peers on certain things because it's either not safe for me, or it's not financially viable, or frankly, I know I'm better than what they're asking me to do.
Yeah.
And it's not that like I can't do something or like I shouldn't. Like I do shows for free for people, or I will do a role that maybe I'm not psyched to do, but I know it's for a good reason, or this person's asking me of a favor and I do want to help them. But there's sometimes people are just taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
I had someone who asked me to drive to Amarillo and back for the same gig for $75. And I'm sorry, dude, that's not even gas.
Yeah.
That's not gas, and that's not even me being shitty about anything. No, you're putting me in the hole to drive to Amarillo and back for $75.
Yeah, if you were already driving that way for something else, you know, but yet to just go there.
No.
But, you know, I think
I've done that so many times.
I'm learning, and I'm still learning a lot, you know, so I don't want to pretend like I know. But from hearing y'all talk about things, I'm learning, like, there are still these people who believe, you know, you got to grind, you got to pay your dues. Like, you're just, who wouldn't do that for $75? It's a show, Emily.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you also want to tell people, it's like, look, no one's trying to get rich off this Amarillo show.
No.
We're just trying not to lose a ton of money, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, I know you're getting $800.
Yeah.
And you're offering me $75. And your host is local. No, dude, I'm sorry. Like, that doesn't make sense. And you know it doesn't make sense. And you know you're exploiting people because you know someone will say yes.
I have had the unfortunate pleasure of having the curtain pulled back on pay rates.
Yeah.
For not for small shows, for fucking clubs. Clubs where you can do simple napkin math of like, damn, this place is packed. And they did what? 4 shows? They sold out 4 shows? And then this was what the interesting. And you're just, and I think the only reason it frustrates me, again, it's like, if you're running your club, you have the right to do whatever you want.
Sure.
You made the investment. You're taking the risk. I respect you for taking those risks.
Yeah.
But the way to make sure it stays successful for a long time is to be investing in this group that is entertaining the people that are buying your drinks and your tickets.
Absolutely.
Right? If you know, you've got to value that a little more so that this person isn't deciding like, do I have to quit and get a day job to pay my bills, or can I keep doing this comedy thing,
or pay them enough, or let them know that they will be paid enough that other opportunities that come up are not going to be a better position for them. Because
what do you mean?
Like, if there's some clubs that pay essentially pennies on the dollar for what you're actually doing for them, but there are other clubs that pay you what you're worth for a weekend. And so if I have the gig that's saying I'll pay you pennies on the dollar, but then this club tells me, hey, you're going to make 4 times as much.
I see.
If you do you want to work the same weekend? Yeah, I'm going to drop.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably going to tell you, because most gigs, you'll probably, unless it's like on the road or something, if it's local, you'll probably learn the week of, maybe 2 weeks in advance if you're lucky. But if I'm learning 2 days ahead of time before I have to do this better paying gig that I'm making 4 times as much, but I told you I would do this gig, I don't care if I drop and you have to struggle to find someone else. I know someone will take that rate, but they're probably not going to be as good as me.
Right.
So it's like you're putting yourself in a bad position, because people are, of course, going to be willing to drop if they can make 4 times as much, and probably honestly work with better headliners too. Because if you're willing to pay a host that, what are you paying headliners?
Right.
So you're probably getting better headliners.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, because there is a certain amount of, I hate to use the word suffering, but that's really what it is. There's a certain amount of suffering, like starving artist, that is good for development. But I feel like you should be able to quickly get past that.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And I worry that people that run things, some of the people that run things, think, no, you got to pay your dues. For like 10 years, you got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And I think, do you have to?
I'm not saying.
Do you have to pay dues for that? Like, no one's going to get rich off of, hosting these shows or whatever.
No.
Can we just pay enough to where it's like, oh, great, that helps me pay my electric bill. That was awesome. That,
and the way I think, like, the starving artist mindset. You will starve them out of the art. They won't be doing the art anymore because, I'm sorry, we live in Dallas. We see homeless people all the time. I don't want to be homeless.
Yeah.
But if I'm getting to that point, I'm going to stop doing it, because I'll take jobs that pay my bills so I don't sleep on the streets.
See, in the argument to that, they'll go, well, you just didn't want it bad enough. It's like, no, but at a certain point, reality sets in.
Did I not want it bad enough, or did you not want me bad enough?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because if you want me to starve, essentially, how bad did you really want me? If you are willing and wanting to exploit someone, how bad did you actually want them? Because if you care about people and care about growing something, you're not going to want to exploit them.
Yeah, because I don't think the suffering. I used to think that way a lot. My background's in music. I used to think like you gotta go through some stuff, and then you'll find stuff, right?
We're already going through stuff. We're comics. Right. We're already. I've got shit up in here. Come on.
And now I've got to think about it more of what could I come up with if I could spend 8 hours a day on this because I didn't have a job?
Yes.
Because I could go out and have experiences, and I could actually sit down and think about things, and it wasn't just tired old stuff about, I'm broke, I went to work, I'm struggling with this relationship, because those are the tropes that people start with, quite often. And it's like, no, if you really could, you had a day where it's like, no, I made enough money, we went to like the gun range and shot. I'd never done that before. And you have these experiences, and then you got a couple hours where you're like, I can write for like 3 hours today because I don't have to think about doing this other thing. When
I worked with J.R. de Guzman this past weekend at the Improv, class act, seriously, like such a class act, I said to him, it's so nice because he is definitely at a point where this is paying his bills. I said, it's so nice to see what a show can be when someone can put all of themselves into their art. And it's not like, I'm working on my comedy when I can. It's like he is doing this all the time, thankfully, because he is now able to afford to do that. Yeah. But he gets to put all of himself into that. And his shows were so great. Everyone had so much fun. Yeah. And I could see on the audience, he sold out like almost every single show. And he did long meet and greets, and he had the time to talk to people and take pictures because he doesn't have to do that anymore. He doesn't have to starve, so he can put all of himself into that. And that's great. Why is it so noble to starve? I think it also takes away, I think there's something bad about that desperation element. Yeah. I got to make this work. So then you compromise. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? I got it. If this doesn't work, I won't get this money. I won't be able to do this. I'll just do this for now.
Yeah.
And then for now becomes forever.
Have you would love this book because you love music, your background's music. Have you listened to, you should listen to it because he reads it, Rick Rubin's The Creative Act.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you've listened to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's phenomenal. I love so much of his mindset, and like I've listened to so much of him now that I have to remind myself he's not full of shit, that he's real. He's
made so many people that it's like from so many different genres. You didn't have one-hit wonders, or you couldn't only work in one lane. You're working in multiple lanes. But he says that. He's like, if you have to have a job to pay enough bills so you can then try to do your art, you should do that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be homeless.
Right.
He said you shouldn't be doing those things because your art is suffering. Mm-hmm. Because you're suffering so much, your art is suffering.
Yeah.
You're not making good decisions. You're not being creative when you're literally wondering, am I going to sleep in my car tonight? And I know a lot of comics did that, and I'm not saying that they did anything wrong doing that, but I'm saying that is a literal last resort, and most people cannot function under that.
Well, and I think there's a difference in, I want to do this. You know, let's say exclude our scene, right?
Sure.
If you are in Kansas or wherever has I don't know if Kansas has a scene, I'm sorry.
They do. I've been in Wichita. Yeah.
Okay. If you have a scene that is very small and you want to break out.
Yeah.
Typically people are going New York, LA, right? And if you go to LA and you're like, I'm going to get out there, I'm not going to wait till I have my ducks in a row, I'm just going to do it. And then you sleep in your car for a month until you get it together. And it's like, okay, that's respectable. But you had a plan. Your goal was not to stay in your car.
Yeah.
It's the people who are like, I lived in my car, and they're like bragging about it. It's like the people that were living in their car at the time, it wasn't a brag for them. They were embarrassed. They were trying to get out of that. It was a temporary thing.
Yeah,
you know,
they were showering at their friends' places.
Yeah,
like
they didn't want to do it. They knew it was a means to get to this next step.
Yeah.
And if they didn't ever get to that next step, they were probably going back home.
Well, yeah. When Bill Burr moved to New York, he said he saved up $15,000 because he knew he had to like find a place and like get a job and like start something. He knew he's like, I wasn't like the younger people who just fucking did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a really smart way to do it. It's like you don't have to be in those positions. And I hate that because I feel like sometimes people fetishize
100%
struggling.
Yeah.
Like
look how much I struggled.
It's like you didn't earn it, or you can't be creative if you're not bleeding for people. Like these fucking vampires, they want to see your blood to believe that you're good enough for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have to do that because I'm seeing you laughing.
Yeah.
So why am I getting fucking nothing working this gig? I'm doing this because I want to get good skills, but don't think I won't remember this because everyone remembers, and people just won't come back to those clubs. They'll be like, okay, well, you know, this club still hasn't changed their pay rates. I'm not in that anymore.
Well, and as a fan, you know, my wife and I'll go to a lot of shows by myself because I would be divorced if she came to all the shows.
Yeah.
But whenever there's a show where I'm like, I think you're going to like this one, come with me, we'll go. And we keep tabs. As fans, we keep tabs. Like, we know, even if this podcast wasn't going on, we're still keeping tabs of like, these people seem like they're trying, or these people seem like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And it makes you go, you know, oh, this person's coming. Yeah, but it's there. It always fucking sucks there.
Yeah.
Right? And so then when you have to rely on lower clientele for your shows, you're just on this steady staircase going down. Your crowds are getting worse, so you're going to get worse comics.
They're getting thinner.
Yeah. And then more disruptive people who are there for their night out, whatever that may be, rather than like, oh no, we were very excited about watching a comic tonight. Yeah. You know, we've all been at those shows where someone's there just to drink and have their time, and the comic just happens to be performing.
And they end up ruining the show.
And so I feel like if you don't invest in your talent and you don't invest in your crowds, and by investing in your crowds, it's like, have good servers, have friendly door people, maybe slap up a coat of paint every now and then, keep the bathrooms tidy, make it look like you want people to be in here.
Have them wearing uniforms, you know, like something.
Doesn't have to be crazy. Like, you know, throw a t-shirt on with some, you know, just say like, hey, we do blue jeans and a black shirt here. It's got to say this, it's got this logo on the back. We'll buy your first two, you know, anything like that, you know, but like the amount, we drove up to, I'll shit on him a little bit because it was a nice club. Sure. And it was a great experience. We went up to Bricktown to watch Kyle Kinane.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, and I mean, Kyle's amazing.
Kyle's amazing. beautiful club.
Yeah.
The access to the club was great. It was all a good experience.
Yeah.
But the one thing where I was like, what the hell was that? Was, we walk in and the people who are verifying your things, it's like, they don't even make eye contact with you.
Oh yeah.
They don't greet you. It's just like a machine of like this table, that, because we walk in and we're like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, last name? And you're like, yeah, it's this. And then they're like, and we're like, man, we're really excited. Is it going to be a packed show? Like, just trying to like
chit chat, yeah.
Whatever, while you're typing on your, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm just trying to be friendly. And then they're just like, John, table, whatever. And then they take you in there and you're just like, what the hell was that?
Whoa,
and I know that that's not a representation of that club.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that one experience is how it goes all the time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take many of those experiences for people to be like, oh, fuck this place.
Yeah. And I think being a comedy fan, you're more, of course, you're like, I'll come back. You know what I mean? Like, this person's probably having a bad day. Like, whatever. I'll come back. But if you're someone who just is like, with comedy shows, you're like, I can take it, leave it. Yeah. I don't care. If you think someone's being a dick, you're just going to be like, all right, whatever. I'll see this show because I want to see this guy, but like, I'm probably not going to come back.
Yeah.
I'll watch YouTube or whatever they want to do, or they'll go to the movies next time.
Well, and even places like Oklahoma, it's like, hey, you're not going to be the only club.
Yeah, no, absolutely
there are things opening up constantly, and they want your business bad.
Yeah.
And you're on top for now, but how many places have come and gone?
Yeah.
And again, like,
sure,
the whole experience, it was a lovely night.
Sure.
But we just look at those things now. And then the more of those things you have that add up.
Yeah.
How long until people are just like, that place is just kind of a beatdown?
I mean, yeah, I've definitely been at some places where like the Improv this past weekend, staff's great. But I've been at some other clubs where I'm like, trying to be nice and chit chat, because I always talk to servers and I make sure I always tip who's ever in the green room and like that type of thing. But like when people are very like short and they're just like, I'm like, oh, something's wrong here with management. Because I think about, I'm like, if everyone is kind of in a bad mood,
there's something going on.
Then I'm like, there's something wrong, like either something wrong with management or some rule change that made their job harder. I don't know, but there's something wrong.
Because my first thought, if I was a server for the talent that night, my first thought would be like, oh, this is going to be pretty great. Like, it's going to be hopefully much less running around than if I had 8 tables.
Yeah.
And also, like, this is the talent. That's going to be fun. Like, oh my gosh, hey guys, what can I get you? I'm so-and-so. And it's like, they're going to crack a couple jokes and then just leave them alone for a while, make sure they have what they need.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go, oh, so-and-so was fantastic. That was great. Yeah. Send them in here anytime we're here.
Yeah.
And it's like, your job just gets easier. So like you said, if they're not psyched about doing that, it's like, what's happening to them at work that they're not happy? But you work at a comedy club.
Exactly.
It should be a cool, fun job.
It should be.
Right?
Yes.
And so, because if I don't care what you do at a comedy club, right? Pick the job.
Yeah.
If you tell someone, you're like, oh yeah, I do this at the comedy club, instantly they're like, oh.
Comedy club?
Well, what is that?
At a comedy club?
That's pretty. What do you do there? I just serve drinks. No, but I bet that's like, so you see all the shows when you're there, right? And like, and so it should be a kind of a coveted thing of like, we work here. This is great,
Yeah.
So yeah, you do. You wonder, it's like, what's happening on the back end of this that I don't see?
Yeah.
It can't be that they just decided to get a job here and they hate working here.
Yeah. Well, and it's also something I think that people don't notice is like when you are at a comedy club and the seats are really torn up.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like a really torn up seat?
We look at all that shit. My wife, the first thing she does, she'll look at the floor. She'll look at the tables, chairs. She looks at all, because she wants to know, like, in her mind, she's kind of already gauging, like, how much do you care about us? Because we know how much the ticket cost.
Yeah, for sure.
How much do you care? And like some of the places do like the vague service charge now, where it's not like you bought a ticket, the ticket had a service charge.
Sure. Yeah.
Then when you get your check, you have gratuity for the server, and then there's another service charge that's just a vague charge.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, if you got to make ends meet this way, that's fine.
Yeah.
But also, let's make sure this place is looking good.
Yeah, and that's like kind of one of those things where it's like that line always confuses me when I see it, but I always add another tip there too, because I'm like, I'm so desperately worried. I'm like, am I shafting one of
someone over here?
The wait staff? And so it's like, I don't want to be that person. So it's like, I will, but it's like, I don't know what I'm paying for. But, like you said, hopefully maybe this gets like a new carpet or like a new chair or something. Or a new microphone.
It's like taxes. Oh my gosh. First of all, the amount of times I look at like if you run a club, I look at your microphone from the crowd.
Yeah, we can see
I can see your dented, gross-looking microphone that you put out.
Have you seen there's a picture from like a comedy club that had it for like 10 years or something, and like the grime and the dirt that was on it?
You know how much a good quality microphone costs for something like that?
$100.
$100.
Yeah, I have one. I got one in COVID.
It's the industry standard, and everyone loves it. It's great. It's like you should just have 5 of those ready to go.
Yeah.
And if one gets dented or dirty, like please just clean it. Because it's like when I sit even 5 rows back or something, it's like you see that and you're just like, ooh. This is this is one of the most important tools here.
It's also the thing everyone's looking at. Because they're looking at the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is so important for this person's thing. And it's like, and because then some of the shows I start thinking, I wonder if they're distracted because that microphone probably smells.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Smell it. I don't, like, some people, like, put it really close to their mouth and stuff. It's like, or, like, they'll touch their chin with it. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Right.
Because it's like, you just see people, like, with their jokes, like, they'll, like, make some weird movement with their lips or something. And you can see spit get on it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, my gosh. All right.
And I like, that little top piece, it just unscrews. Off. It's made out of durable. You could just, like,
you rinse it.
You rinse it off.
Let it dry.
Put a little disinfectant on it. You could, how hard would that be, right?
True, but also a lot of people don't wash their hands when they leave the bathroom.
No,
so we're just asking for people to be clean in general is so hard.
But as any kind of venue of anything, you should have these checklists. Every night, here's what we do, and so many people overlook that. John Stringer turned me on to this really good podcast. I can't remember the name of it, but it's about like club owners and people that put on shows.
Oh,
and
really?
Their little details.
I want to know that.
I'll find it afterwards, but it's really, really good. And there's an episode with is it Rick Glass comic?
Yeah, Rick Glass. Yeah.
And he has all these he's a fanatic. Yeah, he's a fanatic about like the details of clubs, down to little things like if he's on stage and he notices they have white napkins instead of black napkins, if they have the red baskets with the paper in it, those things, like all those little details. He's like, look, I'm not saying it's going to be a horrible show, but we could have made it a better show.
Yeah, you're like, I'll try my best.
Yeah.
But there's some things out of my control. So
yeah, it's fascinating because those are the things my wife and I. It's like, are we crazy? Are we crazy? We think this way. Are we just high maintenance idiots, or what? What's going on? And then you hear somebody else validate that who's been in comedy for 30 years or whatever, and you're like, okay, we're not nuts. Because I'd be lying if like long term we would love to open up a venue of some kind.
That would be sick.
We're taking notes of like what could we do. But
sure. And I think it's hard to convince people to spend money on an experience that either they don't have that often or that they're kind of just on the fence about. And a lot with as accessible YouTube and Netflix is for people to watch stand up, you're kind of like saying like, hey, like this is going to be better than sitting on your couch.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of sell it sometimes. You got to kind of have nicer chairs, or you have to have nicer food, or you have to have nicer drinks, or like you said, like cleaner carpets, looking like the stage is not plywood all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of do some of that to create that ambiance of this is an experience.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching stand-up at home, on a special, that's not an experience. You're watching TV. It's not the same thing. You can love whatever the person's saying. That's not an experience. A show is an experience.
And anyone, if you've never been to a show, right? If you're only watching those things, those are great.
Yeah.
But nothing replaces the live show.
Oh, absolutely.
We just filled that thing for Lawrence, and it's like, I know for a fact that in person that night was still better than what the recording we made will ever be.
50% of the energy when it goes on video.
And it's like, I'm very happy with the recording, but I know I'll always go, it's just not as good as it was that night.
You can't transfer it. There's nothing that will transfer. There's nothing that picks up that energy.
Yeah. So if you can get them out there and get them hooked on that, like, oh my God, there was something there, then they're hooked now. Now they're coming back. It's like taxes, right? I don't mind paying them. Just make sure I have cool shit.
Make sure not every road has potholes in it, Or I would love the kids that are going to be my doctors one day. be able to read. I would love for that. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than a doctor. I'm not saying that, but I would love for them to be able to read.
Yeah.
But if we don't have any money for public schools, they're not going to become doctors.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. Yeah, it's like there's certain things I am fine paying extra money for.
Yeah.
Because I know not only it makes my life better, but it's a higher quality experience for just all around.
Yeah. Nobody minds the extra $1 if the guacamole is really good.
Yeah, no, they don't. Yeah.
Right?
If it's brown, ugh.
Yeah.
But no. I never think about the money I spend when I'm having a good time, but I always think about the money I spent when I had a bad time.
We were at a place, it's not a comedy place, but we were at a bar and we got in there kind of early. So we're sitting at the bar top.
Yeah.
And a table of like 8 people came in and sat like behind us, but we were near the end of the bar where they can come out of the bar and whatever. There were no servers there yet. And the bartender's talking to them from behind the bar. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any servers yet. Like, if you guys need something, like, you'll just have to come up here.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we just want to sit at the table. We're thinking, like, drinks and food. Any chance you can just come over here? Literally talking about 10 feet. We're talking about 10 feet from where this bar...
And the bartender's like, no.
He's like, we really just don't want to make it, like, a thing here all the time. And so they go, yeah, we're trying to spend money. Would you like to come take our order?
Want money? Yeah.
And it ended with them just leaving and going somewhere else.
Wow. I mean, not on them, wow, but wow that a bartender was like, until the servers got there.
It's like, that was 6 or 8 people. So, man, that might be like $40-$50 right there for your night if you play it right.
Yeah.
And it's 10 feet away from your bar. It's like a hustle for a little bit so the server gets in there. And my wife and I, we both waited tables and bartended. And to see someone, like, we would always be like, oh, there's another table. Let's go. I want another, $10, whatever I can get out of this. Let me get it, because it just adds up so quickly if you do it right.
Yeah.
And when you see something like that, it's like, you just don't even know how, like, you're hurting yourself. You don't even know how to make money.
Yeah.
You're not, like, this was for you.
Yes.
But that's such a common, people, like, I feel like we're losing a lot of that. That hustle.
It's like common sense, though. It's kind of like, because like, especially, I mean, who knows what that establishment, what their tipping structure is, but like, especially if you're splitting tips and stuff, like, I get it, sometimes that's annoying, but like, you're adding more to the general pot that you're going to have to split from. And if you don't split tips and you do get that, then you just got that, but also no one was there, so you're just standing there then,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, awkwardly, so you're not making money.
Well, and we used to always think about, anytime we got a table that was not at the bar top, you're investing, hoping that becomes a new bar customer later.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go like crush this table, and be like, yeah, I'm always here, Thursday through Sunday. You guys should sit at the bar sometime if you come back. And then usually you'd have a pretty good turnover rate on that.
Yeah.
It's not everyone, but now all of a sudden you've got new bar regulars. They're like, yeah, we've been looking for a place to watch the football game or something. We'll come here. Yeah.
And now you make more money because they're coming back.
It's like, you've got to invest in your customers.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
And your customers are the people buying tickets, and then your customers are the comics also.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like, you've got to invest in both of those. Don't you, without having to say anything, obviously, you already have your list of places where when they hit you up, you're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, don't you want to be the fuck yeah place?
Yeah. Don't you want to be the place that people respond to your message within like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Not the place that people are like, well, let me look at my calendar. Did I have something else I was wanting to get? Or this person never got back to me, so let me message them again before I message this person back. It's just like, you don't want to be that. And it's honestly, it's like, those people if those people are fine treating you bad when you're trying really hard, but you're not there yet. Those people are not going to treat you good when you are there.
Right.
They're just not going to. Yeah. Even if you proved you're this amazing headliner and you can do all these great act outs and jokes and everything like that, they're still going to try to pay you less.
That's a good point.
Because they don't see you as like the person that you are, not the act that you can become. It's kind of like when I talk to people about these types of things, what it reminds me of, like, hey, the NBA drafts on potential. They don't draft you because you're LeBron James and you just got out of high school and this is all you're ever going to be. They draft you because they know that you could become something. So they invested in you from here, not invested in you when you were, whatever. I don't know all of his accolades, but like, like, he's an extremely accomplished player. they didn't wait till then to invest in you.
Right.
That type of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's like I think good talent, people who spot good talent and people who spot good comics, they may not be the ones that like immediately shine like a bright star when they first meet them, but they see the tenacity and they see the desire, because talent is lazy. Most people are. I used to have this saying on my wall where I would write, "You were not talented enough to be lazy," because I'm not saying that I am. And I think it's ridiculous to kind of think that there are people who think that they are.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get anywhere just thinking you're talented and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people will see when you're trying, and they're like, okay, they're not here now, but they're going to be here because they try. And they show up every week, and I see them every week.
Yeah. I think you talking about people investing in potential. Mm-hmm. It's like recently, we lost Jan from Backdoor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to preface it with, I love Backdoor.
Yeah, of course.
But Backdoor has all sorts of its little issues because it's run by people who love comedy. Mm-hmm. It's not run by, crazy, strict, business-minded people.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've got to hear people talk about how that was the first place they did an open mic.
Yeah. It was the first place I did open mic, yeah.
And I've had people now, like Scott Bedgood was just on here, and he was saying like, I did the Backdoor open mic for the first time. He's like, and I called up, and he's like, Jan answered, and was like, okay, you ever done this before? And he's like, no. And she's like, okay, so here's the deal, and gives them all the rules, and is like, we're going to try to put you up on this time.
Yeah.
Follow the rules, you'll be fine. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And that's such a different attitude than some of the other places where they try to gatekeep how this is going to work.
Sure.
But her and Linda, even as somebody who's just watching and listening to y'all talk about that place, you definitely see that they think a lot about the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
And even though they have a niche of, clean comedy, it's a smaller room. But you do notice people that take their advice and then they take their opinions seriously, and they value those opinions. They progress. Yeah. They do well. And, that's a lot of what we've been talking about, of like, you need that in your scene. Yeah. You need people who have watched as many shows as they have, as performed as many as they have, to be able to give really solid advice rather than just selling tickets all the time. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see moving forward, how, if that spot gets filled in any way, because it's one of those positions, it seems like it's not doing much until it's not there. Yes. And then you realize like, oh, Jan was doing a lot up there.
Jan was doing a lot up there. And Linda, of course, does a lot up there. And when people would either not like what they said to them as far as feedback, or they, thought maybe they deserved a better spot or more time or whatever, sometimes I would get really mad at them, and I would hold it in sometimes. Sometimes I don't. But I would say, I would think to myself, maybe they're just trying to teach them something. Yeah. Maybe they're trying to teach you something about being patient, or that you're not ready. Or maybe you need to know to follow these rules because having structure and a backbone and a standard means something. Yeah. And not just getting what you want all the time because you want to close it out. I want to do a lot of things. But I tell people this, I was like, Linda is the only person that I am happy to work for free for. I will work for free for I'll do charity things or whatever. And if someone's asking me a favor, I'll do those things, but I usually won't do it for free. And Linda's the only person I know because, number one, Linda invested from me from the get-go. Linda was the person who was letting me get on at the mic. She let me host the mic. Then she let me start hosting the shows because I didn't get to host other places, but she knew I could. I just had to learn how to. And she taught me how to. So, of course, I'm going to work for her for free. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to set up, and I'm not going to complain, or I'll host on a weekend when there's 15 comics, and that isn't always the most fun, but I'll do it because she taught me that I needed to do that. And not everyone sees the value in those things. And it's to me, I'm like, when people act that way, I'm like, all right, you don't even know what you're losing out on. You don't know that, whatever money you think you could have gotten from this, or what you could have done, or the amount of time you would have got, it's not what you're actually missing out on.
Yeah, and there's just, you feel it there. It's not there for the greed. It's not like Linda and Jan were like, we're hoarding all this money.
They're
from
not
y'all.
getting rich off of it. They're absolutely not.
As a matter of fact, they'd probably make more money if they could stop doing this and focus on whatever else is going on in their lives.
Linda has Emmys.
I know.
Linda,
I hear every time I meet someone that knows her on a deeper level than me, I learn a little bit more about her, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this woman. In a positive way, but and I've had the chance to talk to her a few times, and it's I talk a lot, and it's like she's one of the few people where I'll find myself just going, I am listening and not saying anything here. And because she's usually somebody else is asking all the questions I'm thinking, and I'm just soaking in whatever's coming out. So the times I've heard people say something negative about that place, now I've gotten to the point where that kind of hits my radar of like, okay. I don't know anything about you yet, so I'm not going to judge you. But I'm already thinking maybe you're difficult. Maybe you don't see the value of some of these things, and you're just challenging stuff. Maybe you're incredible and you don't need it, but that's probably not. It's the case.
You're usually not a shooting star. You're usually not.
Because the other thing I've seen is there are lots of people that start there and filter through their journey, but there are also people who are loyal to that club. Right? And so that speaks its own volumes. These people could go work other places. They like working here.
When people come into town, like Cristela Alonso will still come back and do sets, Usama Siddiqui will still come back. People still come back because not only they like the vibe of the room, they like that they get to do time, but they respect what they're doing. Even though that, they're not getting paid on that spot, but they know they're like, there's value here, and I should still come and try to do a set and kind of be around this just for a little bit, even though I'm not like making money,
What do you think is the largest amount of seats you could make backdoor where it still felt like backdoor?
Where it's, I think probably the max in that room. Because that room
No. If you could do whatever you wanted. If you could build a room, if you had all the space in the world, but you wanted to make sure it still felt like that, like that backdoor feel, because it does feel very different in a very nice way. Because I think about that a lot of, the way to make sure this place stays here is that it makes money. And the way you make money is more seats. But you can't put too many more in because
I wouldn't
do
more than
like
100.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't do more than 100. And I would expand the room out to be a little more square than it is rectangle. And I would have a half circle stage. And then that way, the way it fills and the amount of space you allow a comic to be able to move, you are able to project the experience a little bit wider, so you have a little bit more. You'd have to obviously like have a new venue than what the one that's currently is, but that would be my opinion on what I would have.
Have you ever performed in the round?
In the rounds?
On a round stage in the middle of a room?
Yeah, DCC just redid their room.
Is there a new room in the round?
It's like, it's like a half circle, like in this corner.
Okay.
And then like all of the the seats are like tiered, and it's literally like, like a weird half circle.
I'm saying full circle.
Oh, no. No, I haven't done a full circle. Sorry.
I wonder, because usually they do that in stadiums.
Yeah, like Nate Bargatze's, one of his specials, was in that stadium like that,
I wonder if 100-seat venue, like if we had a 100-seat back door, but you had a small in the round stage, if that would just be really, really fun, or if that would be a terrible idea.
I wouldn't like that.
No?
I wouldn't like that because you always have your back to someone.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you want to make it an experience where everyone feels included, that's really, really hard to do.
Okay, fine, we won't do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're like, I already drew up the plans.
We got to make some calls. I'm sorry. No, I do like the idea of the half circle, though, where you're just maximizing, and then they're right on top of you to where you're still feeling a little like,
close.
Yeah, maybe a little too close sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to kick that one foot off the stage every now and then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love doing that. I've done that a few times. That's fun.
Yeah. Because I think if I had my choice of, like if you could do the extreme makeover on something, I don't think it needs a makeover, but it's just, I just want it to be the spot. I want it to be more respected by outsiders.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of outsiders just don't know it exists.
Yeah.
Even a lot of people in Richardson probably don't know it's there. And it's like, y'all have a really sweet little club in this town.
Yeah.
And it's just minutes away from all these areas of Richardson.
Well, in a lot of comics, I don't even think that they don't respect it. A lot of comics, I just hear them say, they're like, oh, well, I can't work clean. Or like, I just don't work clean. I'm too dirty for that place. And it's like, try a little bit.
So
expand yourself a little bit.
We went out to me and a buddy of mine, Chris, we went out to Tyler, Texas to check out that venue, Rose City Comedy. And that should have been recorded to show all the clean comedy haters of why it at least needs to be in your bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Because there were these hilarious comics. They had good material. It was very funny.
Yeah.
But that crowd was not there for that type of material.
Oh, really? What do you think they were there for?
They were there for clean. Like Nate Bargatze would have been stretching it for them.
Oh,
like,
wow.
They
okay.
were you know, we were talking about like old money and new money. They were like they're wearing like jeans and New Balance, but they're probably worth $30 million.
Okay. Do you think they are more of like a Jim Gaffigan type crowd? Because he's pretty clean most of the time.
He's pretty clean. I think they're more of like a Jeff Foxworthy crowd. Not because he's country, but because he's just clean.
Because his dad was an IBM exec. Is that why?
No, I mean they're just sitting there like arms are crossed, and then when something was said about like sex or whatever, they're just like,
yeah,
I'm just not into it, right? And it was a testament of like, these are funny people. I thought the jokes were great, and there's me and 10 other people laughing really hard at this, but then there was 20 people that were there that were all about the same kind of age range and mindset that they were not into it.
Do you ever think that?
And then somebody came up who was cleaner, fucking crushed it.
Oh, I believe it.
Crushed it.
I think what a lot of people don't think about in those towns with those types of venues is that, not that it's not a great venue, not that the comics aren't funny, but they're going to these things with their family members.
Yeah.
With their coworkers.
That is 100% what this was.
100%, because it's a small town and that's who lives there. It's not Dallas where you can go to a show and know no one.
Yeah.
It's not Fort Worth where you can go to a show and know no anywhere. These people know each other. So they are going to pull back because they're like, yeah, I think that dick joke is funny. But my middle school teacher's right there.
I still have to see Carol at church this Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or my father-in-law's here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And like, we're cool, but we're not that cool. Like people don't think about that.
Yeah.
And so it's like when there's that curve where
like, Emily's laughing a little too hard at the drug joke. Does she know about these things?
This is going to be an awkward car ride home.
Yeah, it's so true. Like if it's something like that and they're like, so I was doing anal. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's interesting. And it was 100% that crowd.
Absolutely.
I've never really thought about it that way, that if I go to a venue here in Dallas, there's a lot of, I'm anonymous.
Yeah.
I can laugh at the wildest thing there. Nobody knows me.
But it's why you have to have them packed close. It's why the lights got to be low, because people have to feel a part of something, but they can't be looking at each other.
Yeah.
You cannot be like, yeah, right? Like you have your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, husband, whoever, side piece next to you. But like you can't be this close and be able to see everyone's eyes.
Yeah.
And being able to like see what they're laughing at, especially if it's a small town and you work with them and you see your boss laughing at a fucking, I don't know, like dead baby joke. I don't know what jokes you could like really do, but like you can't do that. And so it's like you have to know that and kind of brace for it. I don't say tailor your act to it, but you have to brace for the hesitation. You have to feel that there is hesitation and know that you'll get that.
Or because if you're real slick, you can do it.
You can, but we're also in the South.
You gotta be real.
Yeah, you gotta know where you're at. Like you're in the South.
I did watch Kyle Kinane weave some incredible topics together.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
But he's also been doing comedy for how long now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Decades, yeah.
But he was playing with that Oklahoma crowd, topics about, gun control and abortion. And it's so fun to watch a veteran like that.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason we went to that. As I told my wife, I was like, I think we need to go to clubs outside of DFW and just take weekend trips and go watch somebody who we know is a great performer at a different venue and just learn a little bit more about venues outside of here.
Yeah.
And see what we like and don't like. And watching someone like that who's been doing it that long constantly tense up the crowd and relax them.
It's like dribbling.
It was so much fun. Because again, he's talking about how we need all these gun control laws in Oklahoma. Yeah. But it's leading into how he just bought his gun. Yeah. Because he lives in Portland and like there's all these liberal people up there that he might have to shoot or something. They're like,
sure.
And then I won't ruin his bit, but he had this incredible abortion joke. Yeah. That just truly goes the way you never planned on. And all these people in Oklahoma, while he's going anti-abortion, are fully on board with him.
Oh, I love that.
And it's
That's
like,
awesome.
You can do it, but you're going to have to be at Kyle Kinane's level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're probably not.
Most people probably are not, or you have to actually have that experience and have actually been through something like that. And also you have to be okay with making people uncomfortable. You have to be okay with silence and hesitation. You have to be okay with, they don't know how to feel about something.
You've had a lot of practice at that.
Yeah, I try to.
I
think
love
it's
it.
Fun.
I think you're one of the people around here that does a really good job of just sitting in that empty space.
Yeah.
Just
now that makes me
there.
sound like I don't get laughs. But
No. What I mean is you'll get the laugh.
Yeah.
And you'll hang for a minute.
Yeah.
You're not rushing anywhere.
No.
And you're letting them soak in that. And it's like, again, it's funny.
Yeah.
But then you're bringing in that tension that's really nice. And then I have my second personal giggle where I'm just giggling at the tension. I'm like, it's fun.
It's fun sometimes to be like, because so many comics, especially when it's just your first few years, you're so nervous to do it. And like you want to do good because there's bookers watching and there's like all this other stuff and your peers and you want to impress. But like, when you let go of expectations, I've only really let go of expectations probably within the last 6 months.
Wow.
And I've been doing it about 5 years because when you saw me at the mic, you were like, oh, yeah, you're like not like shaking anymore. And I was like, because I would. And I
didn't mean it that way.
No, you weren't being mean. You weren't dogging me. No, it's just.
You used to shake like all the time. No, I didn't.
I was much more hesitant. I was much more closed in on myself. Like I would wear jackets all the time on stage. I don't wear jackets on stage anymore because I'll fold in. If I feel uncomfortable, like if I feel them pulling back, my body language will pull back. And so they'll be even less comfortable.
You start messing with it and pulling it over and stuff.
Yeah, but no, I've started letting go of expectations a little bit more. So I've been able to not only be okay with attention more, I'll address attention that I like have in the room or the things that I can tell people are uncomfortable with. And I'm kind of just like not afraid of that anymore. And people like expect women to kind of be like soft and like they don't really upset people and they're people pleasers and they're kind of, just trying to make everyone comfortable. But like when you let some of that stuff go, like you can really showcase a personality that I feel like a lot of women don't get to showcase a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I just think it's fun watching people squirm a little bit.
Oh,
That's
it's
just
fun.
Me. Yeah.
It's fun. And, DCC, that room is, it's always just a fun mix because there's never one type of crowd at DCC.
Yeah.
So there's always a mixture of the, the Highland Park, SMU crowd mixed in with someone where you're like, did we get a homeless person in here?
Oh,
like,
a lot of times. Yeah. A lot of times.
And everything in between. And you're like, this is an interesting crowd. And
yeah.
I love just sitting at the back of that room. And, of course I love watching the comics, but I love watching that room.
Yeah.
Because it always surprises me who likes who at those open mics. I'm sitting back there kind of going, I bet they like this type of thing. And then of course I'm always wrong. It's totally not what you expect.
Yeah.
But it's good. I think it's surprising that it's only been like 6 months. I would have thought you've been feeling that way longer. It comes off more confident than maybe you realize.
Maybe, yeah. I feel more confident in my stand-up recently. Maybe that's what it is, that I feel more confident. But I've had like a lot of personal things that have happened in my life. Not like I said, now where I'm like talking about the bleeding again. I'm like, everyone watch me bleed. But like I've just had like personal things that I've been going through that have like helped me let go of certain expectations because I was operating in such a like a self-esteem mindset that was based on performance. And that is good. It's a double-edged sword for stand-up. So it's like it's good to push yourself because you want to perform and do well, but the stakes are so high that you end up self-sabotaging. And then it lowers your self-esteem. So it's like kind of like when you have to like get over that.
Yeah.
Like performing, it's like I was performing for other people when I should have been performing for myself the whole time and doing it for myself for other reasons than besides, of course, everyone likes getting laughs, but I've been going through a big change like that in the last like 6 months.
So you mean you were thinking about, I'm going to write this because it will make them laugh versus I'm going to write this because I find this interesting and funny myself?
No, I was afraid of like going outside of like set material, and I was afraid of going outside certain setups and like structures that I was going on with material. And I wasn't like now I do a lot more act outs and like I will be more physical and I'll be a little bit more off the cuff. I used to be very like
you're more rigid. This is how I do this.
Yeah. So I was afraid to break outside of that because getting to that got me to a certain level of being able to perform at shows and work clubs and stuff. And I was afraid if I broke outside of it, I would lose it again because I've already lost it before.
Yeah. And that's what got you there, right?
Yeah.
So keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was afraid to do that. But now that I broke out of it and I've been expanding more, I've had better results and I've had better stand-up and I've been happier with it.
Had you talked to anybody else and like did others have a similar experience? Did someone say like, oh yeah, that's typical of someone about 5 years in or whatever?
No, I don't think anything about timeline, but you have to like I personally went through like a big, I think, what was it, like maybe a year and a half ago? Like I lost something in stand-up that I was like really like proud of, and I was really devastated about it for a long time. And so I finally like got over that probably like 6-ish months ago, and I've let that go and I've made peace with it. So now I've been able to be like, okay, well, like that thing's already happened. So I already know how I've been through that and what's happened to me and how I can get over that. If it happens again, okay, I wouldn't be happy, but like I already know how to deal with it. So now that's not in my head anymore. Like what happens if I lose that? So now I can move forward and do these other things.
That's interesting. Yeah. So basically learning like, okay, this is how bad it could be in this way. And we got through that. That's fine.
And like the personal disappointment and that stuff and like knowing how you feel and how you handle it and what the right things are to get over it. Now I feel better of how I know how to deal with that now. So I'm not like putting the stakes on it that I did before. Now I can be more free because I know I can still move past it even if I didn't have it.
Do you know, I'm sure you do. Do you know Parker Slavens?
Yeah.
When he was on here, he was talking about his therapist kind of showed him that he had this habit of what they called ultimate eventing. So, you know, this show, this thing, that's the thing. I got to nail it. I got to do that. And that's kind of, he said something very similar. Like once they showed me that I was doing that I was being like, it's the one event.
Yeah.
And he realized no one event's going to do it.
No.
It's going to be years of hard work of multiple things. And he's like, now he kind of talked about a similar thing of like feeling more, not necessarily relaxed. Like he's still very nervous about it all, but just understanding like, if this one goes horrible, but I did what I came here to do, then that's just the way it is. This wasn't the one that was going to make me rich and famous, you know?
Yeah, I'm more self-assured. I'd say that's better a way of describing it than what you're saying Parker is, because I think that's what he's probably talking about. And you're right. It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You're not going to be doing it just out of nowhere. You're just incredible.
That's maybe been my biggest lesson over the last year is just learning like, wow, it takes so long to get good enough to be new.
Yeah.
You know?
Like new faces of Just for Laugh. Those people have been doing it like 10 years.
Well, and you know, Nate Bargatze's most recent special, it blew us away when we watched it. We're like, oh my God, this guy, this is incredible, you know?
Yeah.
And then you see all these old clips of him doing this for 20 years and you're like, damn.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It took. And now, of course, he's getting his due, but it's like,
sure.
You know, how many other things do you put 20 years of hard effort, not
Things
knowing
you
if it's going to pay off? You know what I'm saying, though? And so it's like, wow, okay. But it makes me very excited because I see all the people we have around here right now that are at the 5-year mark, 8-year mark, 10-year mark, where it's like, wow. So these people who I already think are very good, we're kind of now hitting a come up. Yeah. That's still going to take a while. And it started making me think about these LA scenes, these New York scenes, of how that's what they did. Yeah. They just all kept doing it and kept getting better. And it's not that they just have this overwhelming density of really funny people. Yeah. It's like they have a density of people who worked really hard at it for a very long time. And now it just feels like all the funny people are over there. Yeah. You know, it's like, no, they put a lot of time in there.
And also they probably, I will say, and Arun has agreed with me on this, that like the Dallas community is incredibly supportive compared to other scenes, because he did comedy in like DC before, and you know, he's kind of traveled a little bit and I've traveled a little bit, and I've kind of seen that too, where it's like a lot of other places it can be a little bit more elbows out. And I don't know what breeds that, but I think the good comics in New York that have stayed together have had good writing friends that they've really leaned on. Like Sam Morril and Mark Norman, like they've been best buds, and Joe List. Like those people, like they all started together and they're still doing it together, probably because they leaned on each other a little bit more. If they were operating like super, because there's some people in this scene that are really loners. Yeah. And I mean, that's their thing, but it's hard to succeed on an island. Yeah. You really have to have support, and not just like, oh yeah, I'll put you on a show. It's like people you can like talk to, because like your friends and family, your partner, they don't get it. And they would tell you to quit. They're like, oh, well, if you're this miserable, why don't you just quit? Yeah. It's like, it's a different thing. You have to have people
you're the only people that get it. Yeah, you have to be able to vent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I get really excited when I start hearing those types of things. Yeah. You know? I start thinking, oh, we're just at the beginning. Yeah. Of this tasty little scene here.
I'm really excited about stand-up again. For like, I think it was probably like a year ago, I thought about quitting for like 6 months. I didn't, because I know that there's like highs and lows and everything. But like there was like probably around 6 months where I was seriously considering quitting.
I've never understood people who are like, I never thought about quitting it for a second. I'm like, never for a second. I mean, like this show, the other things we want to do, it's like probably 2 to 3 times a year, I like will have a frustrating week. And my wife and I will be arguing about something. I'm like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. Yeah. It's fucking done. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'll still do it.
She's like, oh, you were tired.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, that again? That's what we're doing?
Are you sure you don't want to do comedy?
Yeah, right. And, but you know, it's like, I don't think you really love something that much if you haven't thought about like, fuck this. I don't want to. It would be so much easier if I didn't do this thing.
Yeah, it's like a marriage. Sometimes you're just like, man, I don't know. Yeah. Today you're like, today I don't know. Like, and I get it, but you're like, no, I made a commitment. Let's see. So, you know, I totally get that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you think is the biggest change you want to see around here? What do you think would be, and I don't mean like somebody's doing something wrong, let's change it, but what do you think would benefit people around here, you know, in the comedy scene if we could get something going?
I think what would benefit is if people were less concerned about posting clips and more, and I'll say this because I'm going to get a tape from this weekend and be like, I'll post a clip. Yeah, but like, it's not my main focus. Like I can listen and I can watch my stuff and I can get better. But my being social media famous or whatever is not important to me in the same ways that I think it is some people. And is that my downfall in some ways? Probably. But I would rather write a joke and craft something that like I feel and see in the making and makes people really happy and interested in person, and I know that I can do well on a show with, than just have one clip I posted and then I'm like, oh, okay, that got 100 likes, whatever, you know. All right, I'm kind of done with that. That doesn't do anything. Like that's so short-lived when the skill and the experience and the joy of crafting something lasts so much longer. I just always feel social media is very disappointing in the end. Even if you do well on it, it's still very it's just not my gag, I guess. I would be happier if people were less focused on it, because it's all about optics. It's not actually about experience, because you don't have an experience on social media. You are watching things on social media. Right. Like your experience is not what happens on Instagram. Your experience is what happens in your life. You're just posting about it on social media.
Yeah. And let's be real, like you're not even focused on it. Like you're probably taking a shit or something.
Yeah.
You know, you're not.
You're at your desk because you don't want to fucking send that email or whatever.
It's definitely been a big learning curve recording something for someone here and putting it out.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, the discussions we had, because I'd like to do more. And, you know, it was nice that a lot of people received it well. And so some people have reached out and, you know, the conversations I'm having, because I'm still learning. Sure. We're all kind of winging it, right? Yeah. You know, the conversation I had with Lawrence was like, what do you want out of this if you're going to do it? Yeah. You know, like this, I don't want to put all this work in.
That's a good question.
Unless there's a thing. And that's kind of what I like, you know, and you know, I'm not going to air out what his reasons were, but sure. You know, I think if you're putting out a bunch of clips with no purpose, that's a fault. Yeah. Right? I think if you look at it from, I am a feature.
Yeah.
And I want to get consistent feature work so that I can stretch my 30, 40 minutes or whatever.
Absolutely.
Or one of the people I talked to, they were like, I headline, but I don't sell tickets. And they're like, I want to get something out so that I can try to sell tickets for my shows instead of relying on a club to do it. And it's like, okay, all right, that's a reason. But yeah, I think the just random post of like, I had a great joke this night. It's like, I know you're trying to build a fan base.
Sure, yeah.
And I may be wrong. Maybe that's the way to do it. But it does feel like...
I think my issue is not people posting random things. My issue is having to, feeling like you have to post within a certain frequency.
Oh,
so your standard goes down.
Yeah.
And we're all learning the algorithm or whatever the fuck it takes to do that. But when you're telling yourself, I have to post 5 clips.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, I have to post 5 clips. Okay, so you're saying you're developing that much material to post 5 different clips that are probably under 2 minutes. So you're doing 10 minutes every 2 weeks of worked out shit that is good enough to be posted online. And you think all this stuff is on the same level. It's not.
The only people I've seen post with that kind of frequency are people who are,
20 years in.
Yeah, what came to mind was there's Zoltan Kazis and then Dustin Nickerson.
Oh, both of them, yeah. They're great.
They've blown up now.
Yeah.
But they had lots of material when they started posting like that.
Yeah.
So they were already prepared to move on to a new phase, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not there, what would you say you should do then if you are saying like, hey, let's not do that, but you're still trying to grow? What would you recommend as a good focus? I
think posters and taking you can take pictures with people you work with and show you're still doing stuff. And I mean, yes, post a clip here and there when you have something you're proud of, but you can still prove you're doing things.
Yeah.
I had a club chain follow me today or yesterday from working this weekend at the Improv with JR, and I hadn't worked this club before. But they just started following me. I was like, oh, maybe they've heard some good things. Or maybe they're like, there's something to this person working here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's I didn't have to post a clip to do that.
That's a good point.
But it is something that happened. So I'm like, interesting.
And there really is something about, that's maybe what the newest generation of just people in general, but definitely comics, musicians, in the in the CD days of music, pre-social media and all that, there was so much mystery around the artists that you liked, right? That you were kind of making up your own versions of them.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I don't know every artist that I like,
and I think there's something about that mystery that then makes them even more appealing. Obviously, where you're like, I got to go see a show sometime. I got to go see it. So maybe you're onto something about. Post your shows, post all those things, but keep the mystery. Make them come get it. You know?
I mean, I still have jokes that I'm planning on posting, but it's not I'm going to do this every 2 weeks and see what happens. It's no, I'm proud of this, and if people like and respond to it, great. If they don't, all right. But I'm still proud of this. So it's that's my feeling about it.
I don't give a shit about the algorithm anymore.
Sure, yeah.
I try not to because I've gotten, I'm lucky. People are very friendly and they want to give good advice and they tell you what they do and it's very nice of them. But everyone's advice is completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
And then all of them that are giving me advice are also not having massive success with it either. So I think
fair, yeah.
I don't. Is it working? You just haven't hit your due yet, or are we all just wasting time trying to control something you're never going to really fully understand?
Yeah.
Kind of going back to when you were talking about your material.
Yeah.
It's in music, I would always tell people, write the thing you want to write, so that you're fully happy with it.
Yeah.
And if no one likes it, you love it, right?
Exactly.
But if you wrote a piece of shit song that you thought everyone was going to like. And then nobody liked it. Now you're just like, God, I'm a sellout and no one likes me and I didn't get to do the thing that I really wanted to do. And it's all compromise.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. It's the personal integrity. It's when you feel like you have to be something different and other than what yourself because what you would want to put out there isn't good enough. It's who are you doing this for then?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're not making money off stand up. I'll tell you that right now. These people are not rich. So what are you doing it for then? If you feel like you have to like tailor to certain material, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or like people were asking me this weekend. They're like, because JR's Filipino and I'm obviously not. So people were like, oh, do you feel like you have to like tailor your material to like that crowd? And I was like, well, I don't have a bunch of Filipino jokes. That would be very uncomfortable if I did. But I was like, but no, I don't want to, because I was like, he saw my clips and he liked what I was doing and he asked me to be on it. And I was like, if I got people who followed me from it because they liked what I was doing, that's great. If they didn't, I'll never see those people again. But why should I be tailoring to what I think they are? Plus, then I'm being disingenuous. And plus, crowds can really feel when you're pandering. And it's so off-putting that even if you are funny and you are a good comic, they are shut off. Yeah. You can feel when people are pandering to you. And you're like, nah, this isn't it. Like, I don't know. Something here is not right. I don't like this.
And they would be bummed anyway if they just saw 3 Filipino comics.
Yeah.
You know, that would be very,
sure.
very boring.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to think, you know, like, let's just say there was a room full of Filipino people, right?
Yeah.
Who came to a Filipino comedy show.
Yeah.
That thought that they've never seen like a white person tell jokes before.
Yeah.
Like, come on. They know what's happening here.
Yeah. I was like, they've seen TV. They're like, there's a bunch of white people on TV.
Yeah. How funny would it be, though, if they were in the crowd and they're like, white people do this too. Oh my God. Holy cow.
We thought this was our thing.
Yeah. I thought the stage lights were just up really bright. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's interesting. But, you know, that's kind of been a lot of your... You've been in that situation so much because your delivery is different.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked about it maybe on like the first time you were on the show about, you know, being on a show with someone like Angela Walker.
Yeah.
Similar thing where she just comes up, boom, just dynamite energy.
Big energy,
and then you come up afterwards, hey.
Yeah.
You know, the other person in the scene that does that really well is Tyler Elliott.
Oh, yeah, he does.
That guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I say
very
it with,
low energy.
I say it with love. He is an energy killer. He sucks it out of the room, and then he just does his little witchcraft of bringing it back.
Yeah.
You know, that's his
It's all him.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, that was a big lesson watching him of like, you can bring this shit way down.
Yeah, for sure.
And still keep it.
Yeah. Like, Angela just has so much fun on stage. She gets up on there and starts dancing and is like doing her own thing. And it's like, Tyler walks up there and he's like, hey guys. Like, he's like, I've been doing stand-up 6 times. Like, he's just so low that I'm like, it's funny. I like it, but that could not work for everyone.
Oh, no. I watched him host a show.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite experiences, you know, because the host is always supposed to be lively and, hey, guys, getting the energy up, right? You know?
Yeah.
And I think he literally was just like, yeah, they asked me to host the show, and normally they get like a charismatic, energetic person, and today it's me.
He's like, I just woke up and...
But I love it, you know, like the thought of going, no, we need them all to be bubbly and stuff. That's what I think of when I think of like cheesy 80s comedy that was really bad, is, you know.
Also, it's just not like, that's not my personality on or off stage. So it's like, it would just be weird, you know, and that's sometimes like, maybe that's what people want when they book women. They think that they'll be bubbly or something. But I'm like, if that's really what you're wanting, I was like, you should have watched any clip because you would have seen that's not me. So you either didn't do any research or you want me to be someone that I'm not, and that's just not going to work out. So.
I think the tide is going to turn very quickly, though, on female comedy because of the exposure. Because there's a lot of heavy hitters out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a lot of very like established big names, but there's this whole field of people coming up.
Oh yeah,
that are incredibly good.
I saw Lori Kilmartin when she did her one-nighter in Dallas.
I was very jealous of not being able to go to that.
She's so funny, and her show was just so good, and we were just dying laughing. It's myself, Shri Arun, and we bought tickets because we're like, man, like this is someone I would actually like really pay to see.
Oh yeah,
like
I literally I can't remember what I was doing that evening. I think I might have been doing an interview before and then went up there after. And I was like, it was one of those where I was like, I should cancel the interview.
No, you had commitments.
But the thought of, you know, if you canceled the interview and then you saw the person at the club and you're like, hey.
And you're like, awkward, sorry.
But it also made me excited that, you know, these people are popping in for a day now.
Yeah.
That to me says, okay, things are going well here that people are thinking, between these stops, I'm going to drop in on a Thursday or whatever it was. It's like, hell yeah, please do. We would love to have you.
The room was full. So I was like, there is the demand for it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I got really excited when I heard DCC was renovating the room, like when I was there at that open mic and saw it, because that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, I want, if I see you reinvesting like that, I get fucking psyched about it.
They added more seats too.
Yeah. Well, and the old room was fine. But it was clearly a compromise between stand-up and improv, which makes it just okay for improv and okay for stand-up. And I know that they took over the old DCH, so they probably didn't have the budget to do anything immediately.
Sure, yeah.
But now that they've proven they can keep it open.
Yeah.
Right? Because they bought it during the pandemic, right?
2021?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So now they probably wanted to prove to themselves and keep the doors open. But now that they're reinvesting, it's like, there you go. Yeah. This is how we can all kind of level up a little bit. And I haven't seen the new room yet. Is it completely done? Or?
It's completely done.
Okay.
So it's so cool because it's like, it's kind of like a half moon. Yeah. And it's got the big red curtain in the back, but it's like a little bit higher, but the seats are tiered. So you can go, and then like the tiered seats in the back have like these like lights that are like up under, so you don't have the candles there.
Nice.
So it's like you could like read a menu. You like aren't like fiddling around for stuff. Like it looks just super clean, and I'm really excited about it because I mean Rosie and Ian are like, they're like, they're very goofy and like, Rosie, she's just such a big personality, but they're so smart with how they planned this, because they not only built that, they've also built because where that patio is.
Yes.
And they had that pull down garage. They're turning that into another stage.
There you go.
So now when you lift it up, you could have like indoor outdoor shows, or it's going to be like another improv space as well. So they like have, and then Ian told me when they have the time, they're going to redo that smaller room where you watch the open mic. Yeah. The other day.
Well, and that room is fine. It just it's the same of like, I think what it is they just need to continue at their own pace, getting rid of the remnants of DCH and turning it into the way they want DCC to be. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Because they bought it and it was the same, and that room is fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But you do know it's like, oh, it could be better. Yeah. We could tweak a couple things in here, and it's going to be a sweet little room. I think you're going to really like it when you go see a show there. I think so. You're going to be really excited. Because I already like the place. I never had any real complaints about it. Yeah. And I think that they are doing several things well. Little things that you think don't matter. Like, it's nice to have a couple little small poster marquees on the side of your building so that when a comic is, like when Sri Raj is doing his first headlining set there, it's like, yeah. It doesn't seem like it matters to put a picture out there, but it matters to Sri, and he's going to take some pictures and post it, and that goes back to you talking about like people are going to see that I'm doing things, and maybe that'll, and it's like all of those little things matter, and it just shows people when they're driving by that there's all different types of people that are headlining. They're like, oh, there's someone that looks like me, or there's someone who I am interested in. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen someone like that. I want to watch that. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. And a lot of like places will put the name, but like you can't always put like a face to a name. Right. So it's like, it's nice to have their picture out there, because then people are like, oh yeah, I kind of like that vibe. Maybe I'll go see that. Or they'll put the improv like poster on there, and people are like, oh, I've never seen an improv show. Yeah, like, why don't we go? Well, speaking of improv, it's the same as when the Addison Improv started doing their digital marquee out there. It's like, people like that. It's a busy road. Why aren't you capitalizing on this? Of course, that's a great idea. And how many of those posts have you seen where it's an Ann Friends show or something, and it's up there, and people are like, wow, like taking a picture of their marquee, like, this is so cool, and that's promoting their thing. And it's like, it all matters. But I'm very excited about DCC. I think they're making moves, and I think it's going to be really cool. Yeah. And then, of course, I live really close to Deep Ellum, so it's like, all right, easy. I get pop in and see what the show. Just Uber. You don't have to drive. Very selfish. Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on as usual. This has been so fun. You got anything you want to plug? Anything? This will probably come out in about maybe 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. Okay. Yeah. I'll be in Upstage this weekend, but that doesn't really matter because it won't be out then. I'll be at Cap City in Austin on March 13th, and then I'll be at the Arlington Improv on the 14th.
I'll be at DCC on the 24th. And I'll be at DCC on the 2nd. There's just random stuff.
Do you put most of it just on your Instagram?
Yeah. Okay. I always post it on my Instagram, just at Emily Grefer, Grefer. Is how you spell it. So, I always post my stuff there.
Real quick, what's the worst pun you've ever heard about your last name?
Well, my nickname from probably 7th grade up until probably like 4 or 5 years ago was Reefer. And that's all my friends knew me as in Kentucky. Like everyone called me Reefer. Like people wouldn't call me Emily. They didn't call me like they just called me Reefer. I know. My parents thought it was hilarious, and then I was like, "Oh, you don't know the meaning behind this." So that's probably it. It's just even though it came from love, but like it was just being called Reefer for so long. I was like, I gotta shake this. This is not good.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Reefer. I appreciate it.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.